better stop.
Can you not whisper sweet nothings in my ear?
Hey, little mama, let me whisper in your ear. I think I got something that you might like to hear.
You messed that lyric up. It's let me tell you something you might like to hear.
It's fine. No one knows.
Okay.
They're gonna know.
They're gonna know.
Look, movies like this end when the final girl kills the main bad guy and the credits roll.
Welcome to Final Girl Podcast. It's the podcast where we discuss and analyze your favorite horror movies. My name is Ryan Turner. With me today, I have Alex Bennett again.
That do be me.
That do be him. How's it going, man?
Going great. Glad to be here. Ready for a good podcast.
Ready for a good podcast. I hope it's going to be a good podcast because today, again, the last time I had Alex on, I was like, it's not really a traditional horror film. That's kind of the same case again today because we're doing a horror comedy film. But I'm big excited about it because we've watched this movie several times together, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time ago. To add to your, it's a horror comedy, I feel like also it's a little of a bromance, and it also is a little of a romance. It has a little bit of everything in there.
It's a romantic horror comedy.
Honestly, rom-coms, that's...
We're doing rom-coms on the Final Girl now, guys. Sorry if you've been here for horror movies.
Horror rom-coms.
We're doing rom-coms
It's a specific
now.
niche now.
A specific niche, yeah. We are doing, just go ahead and hop on into this here. We're doing Shaun of the Dead, the first of the Cornetto trilogy from Edgar Wright. So that's why I have the, those of you guys watching on video, the drumsticks up behind me. We live in America. You can't get Cornettos here. That's the closest.
He didn't even try. Don't let him lie.
I could have maybe gone to Amazon.
He didn't even try.
You're right. I didn't. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry I let you all down. But we're doing Shaun of the Dead today. Quick side note on this. I've had this episode planned for a long time. And Dead Meat just came out with his episode of Shaun of the Dead on like last Sunday. So if you guys have seen that video, then hopefully this will be some nice extra content in here. I tried to not copy everything he said from his video. It's just a very unlucky happenstance that.
Well, he also had a 20-minute video, and he can't really touch on everything in 20 minutes. So it's nice to be able to break it down a little more elaborately and go into more detail on certain things. So,
right, and we're gonna definitely try to do that today. So I also find it funny that you mentioned this movie was a bromance movie. So I'm glad to have you on here for that.
Hey.
Okay, Ed, calm down.
I'm glad you got that reference.
Yeah, 100% got that reference. This movie is 100% 2004 because there's so many things that are said in this movie and done in this movie that would not be kosher today.
Okay, too, a huge thing, I know we're going to get into it, whatever. I watched the R-rated version because I bought it on Amazon. I wanted just to stream it and watch it. And it was way different than I recollected it being because I've seen it on TV or TBS or whatever channel it was on, and it had a bunch of stuff cut out. And for instance, where he says, "Hug gay," that was, I don't remember that until I rewatched it recently. I was like, wait a minute. Yeah. So I love how, I feel like that's a weird 2000s trend where movies were PG-13 watered down, and I remember them very fondly. And then I go back and rewatch them as an adult, and it's like, oh, here's all this extra nudity or cursing or.
I think that also goes too for the fact that growing up, these movies that we're going back and revisiting now, a lot of the times we watch them on TV. We didn't we had the movie and everything in its full entirety, but yeah, I remember I watched this a lot on TV, and it was the cut edited version rather than watch the full version on. Right. Yeah, that I didn't have the DVD of this in high school.
It didn't go to theaters, did it? Was it a straight to DVD movie? Because
I think it was in theaters. Because I remember reading. This came out right around the time Dawn of the Dead came out.
It's a year or so after.
They had to push this back because Dawn of the Dead was going to be a mix-up with Shaun of the Dead.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't remember. Obviously, I never saw this in theaters. My first time ever viewing it was at a high school party or something. Someone had it on DVD, and we watched it there. But I think it was in theaters. I just don't have that information readily available. Because it made $6 million, not $6 million, that was the budget. It made a lot in the box office. So I think it did go to theaters.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess I just don't remember it.
So regardless, we are doing Shaun of the Dead. This, like I said, this is directed by Edgar Wright, and I'm so excited to do this movie because I love Edgar Wright. He's a fantastic director. I love his directing style and everything that he does with his films. Also love Simon Pegg. Love Nick Frost.
Yeah, they're great. Awesome everything.
Yeah. I this movie has almost everything in it that you could want from like a horror comedy, in my opinion. I think this is like cream of the crop, like horror comedies. I think maybe it might be edged out by Tucker and Dale versus Evil. For me personally, I do love Tucker and Dale versus Evil, but this movie still up there. Also, as I said, this is the first in the trilogy of the Cornetto trilogy. Personal opinion, I love Shaun of the Dead. I absolutely adore it. I like Hot Fuzz better.
Really? Mm-hmm. Like, I like Hot Fuzz a lot, like, fantastic film. Mm-hmm. But I think it's more of, like, the zombie and, like, the editing style. And I know Edgar Wright does his editing style in all of his films, and that's one reason that I love them. But I don't know. I guess I love the zombie aspect of it more. Plus, the second one's not... It's kind of a horror movie.
It's more of an action film, yeah.
Because they're cops, so it's... I don't know.
It's definitely got horror elements to it. I don't know if I'd ever do it on this show, but... I don't know. I love Hot Fuzz. I
mean, they're both great films.
Yeah.
Like, if by me saying I like Shaun of the Dead more, like Hot Fuzz, I mean, literally right under it. As in, not just ranked of those three movies, but just in general. Like, they're so that the cast, the director, awesome everything.
I think for me personally, I like the climax of Hot Fuzz better, where it's, you got that like cultish community and everything. Well, I mean, obviously here you've got zombies, and a lot of the movie takes place in the Winchester, but in Hot Fuzz, there's more locations, and I don't know. I just feel like I like the idea of it
has more of a mystery element to it.
That's right there. I was trying to get at. I like the mystery idea.
Shaun of the Dead is just easy to watch. It's just a fun movie, and it was his first like horror movie, right? Going into it. I know he did like a TV show prior to it, but going into this,
and a couple short films, yeah.
Right. But this, I feel like, is this his first notable film?
I think this is Edgar Wright's first film. Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head, but yeah, I'm pretty sure this is his first. I can Google that. But let me, while I do that, we can talk. But I lost my train of thought. I like the mystery idea of Hot Fuzz. I think, don't get me wrong, I love the zombie in Shaun of the Dead, but at the same time too, I've never been overtly fond of zombie movies. I think they're fun. They're obviously there for like splatter gore and just a good time. But when it comes to like horror films, zombies aren't my favorite genre of horror.
I feel like I'm not going to say it's like lazy or sloppy, but it's easy to have an end of the world kind of crisis with zombies.
Oh, for sure. And also too, I feel like zombie movies they've gone down. Like, we don't...
Well, it was a whole trend. It was a whole theme. I think there was like one really good zombie movie, and everybody's just like, what if we just slap zombies? Because, Zombieland was great.
Zombieland was great. I did like Zombieland. Another great horror comedy.
Right. And then, is it called like Dead Bodies or Warm Bodies or something?
Bodies.
It's like, that's like almost literally a zombie rom-com.
That movie followed in the footsteps of Twilight so hard, and I hated every second of it. I never watched it, so I don't know.
Then how do you hate it?
Because I hated it.
You hate the idea of it. You're trash. Be better.
Okay, so Edgar Wright, going back to what we were talking about, he did Dead Right, A Fistful of Fingers, Spaced, which was a TV show, then Shaun of the Dead.
Right.
And I don't know if A Fistful of Fingers is a short film or... Yeah, these are films. So... yeah, he's done a few things before this, but A Fistful of Fingers, then Shaun of the Dead was his first feature-length film. So... But anyway, enough about that. So, with all that being said, let's go ahead and just start talking about the movie.
About the show.
All right, so that, guys, with that being said, spoiler effect in warning as of right now. Spoiler warning in effect. I say that wrong every time.
You're hammered drunk. You smelled this beer.
I smelled this beer. Let's go ahead. You know what? We're going to have a nice... This is more than a pint. I couldn't find 16 ounces.
You couldn't find 16 ounces. We could have had 16 ounces in a pint glass.
We could have, but instead, I got us a 25 ounce. We're going to have a nice pint, wait for all this to blow over. So, cracking open a cold one with the boys.
It's not even Saturday.
All right, we're not going to cheers? Oh my God.
No, I don't think I will.
Okay, fine. Well, then here.
You can't set a beer in front of a guy and expect him to just not drink it.
I mean, you're not wrong.
I have no control.
If it was Saturday, I'd shotgun this.
No. Just a solid no for that.
No, just a straight up no. But no, I have to work tomorrow, so I can't shotgun that right now. All right, so anyway, going back to what I was saying, spoiler warning in effect as of right now, guys. We're going to talk about this film in its entirety. So if you've not seen this movie, do yourself a favor, pause this podcast, go and watch the film. It is a fantastic movie, and I think if you are a fan of just like early 2000s humor and like zombies at all, you'll enjoy this film.
My thing is, it's just super easy to watch. It doesn't
really
have
is.
overly complex themes. It doesn't have this or that. You don't got to analyze it. It's just good kind of zombie food. If
We're going to analyze it a little bit today. we're gonna get a little bit into it. Some.
Nope, zero.
But yeah, we're gonna talk about this film in its entirety. So if you've not seen the movie, pause this, go watch it, come back. We'll be here when you get back. Otherwise, if you are, let's go ahead and hop into this, shall we? So, Shaun of the Dead, 2004, directed by Edgar Wright, written by Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg. And this film stars Simon Pegg, Kate Ashfield, Lucy Davis, Nick Frost, Dylan Moran, Bill Nighy, and Penelope Wilton. Hell of a cast. They're all British actors. They were all huge in like England though.
Right.
Like none of
yeah.
them were really well known here. Although Simon Pegg and Nick Frost have made a big name for themselves over here. But the rest of these actors were well known British actors. Like I don't remember what Kate Ashfield was in, but Lucy Davis was in The Office. Like the British version of The Office.
Right. I think there was a couple British version of The Office that.
Yeah, and then later on we've got Martin Freeman.
Right.
Yeah, who was basically Jim from the British Office. I think his name was Tim. I've never seen the British Office.
I'm gonna be honest with you, I've not seen.
I've never seen the British Office, so I don't know.
Shame.
But they're both in there. Dylan Moran he was a popular British comedian. Bill Nighy, everyone knows who Bill Nighy is. You might not know his name, but you see his face, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, that guy. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's got a good cast, got a good director, got good writers. Like, I love the fact, too, this is a movie that Pegg and Wright wanted to keep as down-to-earth as possible. They basically said in interviews, they wanted to be like, what would happen if, like, we were in a zombie apocalypse? What would we be like if it actually, like, happened?
They did a really great job of conveying that, because it's not overtly elaborate and all this special effects and explosions, and it's just a good, simple film to watch.
It is 100%, I feel like, what we would be like in a zombie apocalypse. Like, you and I.
Well, I can get more into that point as we progress through the story. There's one scene specifically that I love just the reaction of what they were doing the whole time.
Okay, well, we'll remind me when we get there, and we'll talk about that. So, another thing, too, I wanted to point out, at the very beginning of this movie, again, I watched this on Amazon. So I watched all the, like, X-ray footage and everything they had there. And it says here, when asked in interviews why they chose to have slow-moving zombies, Simon Pegg responded that death is not an energy drink.
Well, he's not wrong.
He's not wrong. I love that, though. I just love how it's like, why'd you choose slow-moving zombies over fast-moving zombies?
Well, a topic I would like to get into regarding zombies, I feel like it's more appropriate at the end of the film after we discuss it, but he's not wrong. Why would you get just all of a sudden boost to all of your muscles? Like
why would you get boost of speed and everything? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they could run, but only at just like a human's running pace. Nothing faster, nothing slower.
And honestly, I think that is a big issue I have with a lot of zombie movies, is why do they get these superhuman powers just because they're...
Well, like in Resident Evil, it's like a virus where it can mutate your cells and, you make Nemesis or whomever. So, I mean, that makes sense in that regard, and that's cool science fiction. But I think the realistic zombie approach, I think they nailed it with this one.
Absolutely. So, let's go ahead and start this movie. So, we have very first scene that opens up. You've got a shot of Shaun, and he's got a beer in his hand, and he's smoking a cigarette, and they're sitting at the Winchester.
It's such a manly bar.
It is great. I wish we had a Winchester.
I was thinking the whole time. I was like, I so wish I had a pub to go to like that.
Like we've got a bar down the road, like literally right next to his house, called Magic's, and we love Magic's, but it's no Winchester. And, it's not a good old pub. But I love the opening of this film because it really sets up the dynamic that Shaun is just living in this very catatonic life. He's very much stuck in a rut, and he's like going nowhere, kind of exactly how the zombies are. They do a great job in this film, I think, of establishing that humanity is already basically zombies.
Yeah, through the whole
It's
first
just-
kind of
yeah.
scenes and stuff. I mean, it opens up, he's sitting there, he's, fighting with his girlfriend about everything, how all we do is come here to this place, and it's just on repeat. It's just that cycle of we get up, go to work, have a drink, go to bed, repeat.
Yeah.
And I love whenever, fast forwarding a little bit, they go through the scenes where they have it to where he walks through before the zombie outbreak and then he walks back through after the zombie outbreak. It's like the same exact scene other than just some of the background elements are
Like the
changed.
shots are completely the same, yeah.
Nothing has changed really other than just, dead people.
Exactly. I have that in my notes. We'll talk about that when we get there. So, as you said, Shaun and his girlfriend Liz, they're fighting because Liz is fed up with just coming to the bar every night. She wants more out of life than that. And she's also mad because Shaun is very codependent of his best friend Ed, who is always there with him. And I love, I'm going to say this a million times, I love the editing of this part because I love how Liz is talking, and as she finishes, Ed says something that matches up with how she's trying to say something.
Yep.
This happens several times, but Liz is just like, I wish we would just, or something. She says, I wish we would just do something or other, but she cuts off after, I wish we would just, and Ed's over the gambling machine. She's like, fuck. And then she's like, we go somewhere and talk. And he's like, bollocks. It's just like, it slices so perfectly. And that happens several times in this film. That's why I love the editing of this movie so much. But it's a perfect opening because it shows the dependency of Ed and Shaun together, as well as I think it also sets up the dependency of Liz and her friends because she can't really fight her own battles because her flatmates, Diane and David, are there with her, and David keeps stepping in, just talking over Liz, talking for her the entire time.
Well, for other reasons.
For other reasons, yeah, that we'll talk about. But it's very much just like, he won't let her talk for herself. He obviously does not like Shaun. And it's very apparent later on why. But I think there still is a codependency there on both sides. It's just very much more apparent on Shaun and Ed's side than it is on Liz and the other one.
Ed's just portrayed as this kind of loser stoner that just chills out the house, doesn't pay rent, just is kind of whatever. At least, I guess the other two roommates,
They
or
have jobs
flatmates,
and-
they seem
yeah.
like they have jobs and are fairly successful.
Yeah. Yeah, they talk about Ed several times in the beginning of this movie to where it's like he just sells pot, and I wish you would stop living like you're in college anymore. You're 29 years old. You need to move on with your life. And I'm just like, that hit me.
I'm 29 years old.
I was like, I'm 29 years old.
I'm not doing anything with my life.
Where am I going in my life? I'm not selling pot, but I mean, I'm stuck in this rut too. So after this conversation at the bar, we do have the opening sequence here, and again, like we were talking about, it shows kind of humanity just going through their day, doing the very like mundane activities that people do, just living their catatonic lives. I love how it shows one of the ladies that's going to become a zombie later on. She's like scanning.
Mary. I
Yeah,
think it's her
Mary.
name, Mary, the cashier.
Yeah, at the cashier register, just scanning items, and it's just like she's very much like
Mood.
So then we get to the scene you're talking about where Shaun is walking to the store in the morning because he wakes up in the morning. He has a run-in with his other flatmate, Pete, who's very much over Ed's bullshit. He's like, it's time to kick him out.
Justifiably so.
Yeah, he's like, it's time to kick him out. He does nothing but lay around all day long. He has no job. He sells pot to like teenagers.
Occasionally.
Occasionally. And then, Shaun's like, you sold pot in college too. And he's like, once to you.
Yeah.
And then also too, Pete also brings up a night they played Tekken 5 and like all night long and played
Oh, yeah.
games.
He's like, yeah, we went and we did this and we had such a great time. And he's like,
when
how
was
long?
that?
5 years ago.
Oof. So after this little run-in with Pete, Shaun goes to the store, and there, you like you said, you see it's just this continuous shot, and I love the way it's shot. He's just walking along. He's like ignoring everyone else around him. He gives this homeless guy some money, and there's this little kid that kicks a ball at him. And he's just like, "You're dead," and it's obviously foreshadowing.
A ton of foreshadowing.
In this movie, yeah. And he goes to the store. He gets himself, like, I have this up here too. He goes to get a Diet Coke, and he's like, "No, I'll get a Coke."
Yep.
And goes over, and we meet. I don't remember was it Nigel? Is that what the shop owner's name is? It's really not important, but we meet him for a split second, and he like slams down some coins and walks back out. And it just honestly, this whole movie spends probably a good 30 minutes or so just setting up how mundane and lifeless Shaun is in his life.
I will say one fun thing before, like, because this is all pre-zombies. There's all these, like, fake jump scares and fake, like, editing things to make you seem like, oh, here's the zombies. Like, because, you know, it's called Shaun of the Dead, and by the cover, it's like, oh, there's zombies in this. So I love how it spends, you know, like you said, the first 30 minutes is kind of like just establishing his life, his relationship with Liz and his, you know, flatmates. And then it's all these fake jump scares to just kind of maybe trick you. And it's like, oh, now the action's going to happen. It's like, no, not yet. Hold on.
Yet. It takes a minute to build up when the action is. And you're right. You see in the background a bunch of stuff happening, but it's only if you're like really paying attention to everything. Like there's, I believe later on he's on the bus. The woman like faints in the road and everything. And there's like people coughing around him on the bus.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, there's news articles. There's like the news is going on about everything, and you can just see it everywhere happening.
Yeah, there's also the news article, not news article, but I have here when he's walking to the store. You can hear a news broadcast through a radio talking about how a space probe unexpectedly re-entered Earth's atmosphere is being broken up over England. And this is obviously a reference to Night of the Living Dead, in which the zombies were made through radiation of a space probe coming back from Venus.
It doesn't actually ever say what caused it, right? It's there's speculations through like different news medias, but I don't know if there's any actual cause.
It never tells you what causes the zombies, but we can assume that, you know, they're taking references from the Night of the Living Dead, which I don't want to take too much from Dead Meat's episode, but I do find it funny that I feel like not a lot of people know that the zombies in Night of the Living Dead were made by space radiation.
I mean, I honestly didn't know that.
Usually we think like there's a virus or something or whatever going around, but it was made by radiation from space.
I mean, it is a unique outlet. I mean, you know, a weird space rock comes or satellite and radiation. I mean, radiation can mutate you, right? So
no, exactly.
Theoretically, I mean, it makes sense. I guess.
I just think it's funny because it's like, you know, that was the first great zombie movie that started the whole trend of zombies, and yet almost every zombie movie we see nowadays, it's a virus. It's not radiation.
I think it's just an easy like scapegoat.
Yeah,
you know, it's all. I mean, what passes from human to human? You know, germs, bacteria, viruses. So it's just an easy. How else is it going to spread?
Right.
Well, also they don't address in the film. Does it only spread by bite, or can it spread through coughing and other stuff? Because there's a lot of people that are infected on the bus when he's on the bus scene. They're coughing and so it almost implies that it's also airborne.
I would agree with that, but at the same time, I wouldn't, because Shaun never gets sick.
Well, no, none of them get sick, but it could be one of those things where they have like a rare antibody or something. Where like, oh, we don't.
That's true. We never get like a sequel.
There is kind of a plot hole there with that. It's forgivable because you don't even really think about it that much.
Especially in a movie like this, you're not sitting there trying to overanalyze it. Yeah,
like we are right now.
Like we're doing right now. But regardless, there's, like I said, there's this whole just like, you know, long build up to this. We get eventually we get to Shaun's work, and he works at 4A Electrics, which could also be another reference to Ken 4A, who stars in Dawn of the Dead and had a cameo in the 2004 remake. Ken 4A, he's the guy. Do you know who he is?
Not a clue. No.
So he is the guy. First of all, he's the dad from Kenan and Kel. Okay. He was also in the remake of Halloween, the Rob Zombie one. He's the guy in the gas station bathroom who gets killed by Michael.
Man, that's been too long. I don't remember that one.
Oh, okay. He's been in a lot of horror movies and everything, but you know from Kenan and Kel.
I mean,
we grew up watching that stuff.
Yeah, what do you want from me?
Yeah,
childhood hits different.
So at work, we get introduced to just some more characters that are there. It's very apparent that Shaun is not respected by his peers or by his coworkers.
Well, they're all like super young.
Right, they're all
he's
teenagers.
Like 17, 18, and he's 29, and they're just like, yeah, why don't you do something with your life?
Exactly. We have this one scene where the character Noel, he's talking to him, he's like, dude, you're 29. He's like, you know, shouldn't you be doing something else? And he's like, what, you're like 20, 21, right? And he's like, I'm 17. He's like, I also love too, all of the teenagers in the store are like chewing gum, and I just feel like that's like such a stereotypical, like, I don't give a fuck attitude kind of thing to have. And I think it just relays so well with this scene here, showing kind of like how, again, humanity kind of is just like going on their own pace, and they don't give a fuck about anything else. So
that, or just teenagers are just trash. So
I mean, that do be a thing too.
Zero respect for their elders.
So while at work, Shaun gets a visit from his stepdad. Very important to note.
Philip.
He notes that several times. It's his stepdad.
Not my dad.
Yeah, Philip.
Even if there's a fire, I'm not calling him dad.
Is that stepbrothers?
Yeah.
Stepdad.
It's
yeah,
fine.
I got
It's
you.
fine.
Philip is there to remind Shaun that he is to come over to his mother's house tomorrow and to bring flowers that he forgot to bring for Mother's Day. It's his bi-monthly visit, he says, because Shaun. We don't really get a whole lot about this, but there's very apparent that Shaun doesn't. He loves his mother, but there's not been a huge relationship there recently because she remarried Philip, and he does not like Philip, and Philip does not like him. It's very much like a tense situation. We learn later on that Shaun met him when he was first 12 years old, so he's known him since he was 12, and they still have never gotten along, and it's been 17 years. So. That kind of drove a split between him and his mother, but Shaun still tries to be a good son for her and everything as much as he can, even though he is kind of I won't say he's a shitty son, but he's very much just he's very forgetful, and doesn't really take the initiative a lot on things. So after Philip leaves, after saying come by tomorrow, bring flowers and everything. Shaun gets a call from Liz, and this scene's hilarious because Noel is over there talking to him and says, I thought we weren't allowed to have personal conversations at work. And Shaun's like, oh no, it was an emergency, that's my stepdad. And he gets a call from Liz about how he's supposed to make a reservation for dinner for them tonight, and he treats it like it's a work call. He's like, yep.
Spoiler alert, he doesn't make the reservation.
He does not make the reservation.
He does not make it.
So, after that he goes home.
Okay, hold on. TV timeout. Before you go home, I think there's one important thing that we missed when he's working. He has this red pen and he's fiddling with it. I think Noel's on the phone and he's just kind of blowing him off. That lack of respect, for his manager. And he's sitting fiddling with this red pen, and he goes to tuck it back into his white dress shirt. And then for the rest of the movie, there's a couple times it's nodded to, but he's like, "You've got red on you," because his red pen leaked through, and boom, all over his nice white shirt.
In his pocket, yeah.
You've got red on you.
You've got red on you. Yeah, that's a great line. But after that and everything, he does go home because he realizes, well, shit, I forgot to make the reservation. So he tries to run back home to get the reservations, and he calls an Italian restaurant named Fulci's or Fulci's, something like that.
It's Italian.
It's Italian. Don't do the hand.
You got to do the hand thing.
Don't do the hand thing.
It's Italian. How are you
supposed to do it? You just offended all the Italian listeners out there.
Did I though?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, this is a potential reference to Italian horror director Lucio Fulci. Because obviously it's an Italian restaurant. This is a horror film, so there's a lot of references to this film to different.
Honestly, there's so much foreshadowing, references, side notes. It's just it's a little overwhelming trying to keep track of everything.
There was so much on the X-ray vision for Amazon.
Oh, I
was
it.
Scrolling over it every 5 seconds trying to get everything.
Oh, yeah.
There was so much stuff on there. But regardless, Shaun does not get the reservation there because they're full up. So Liz calls and asks about tonight, and taking the wise words of Ed, he decides, let's go to the Winchester.
Straight to the Winchester.
She hangs up on him immediately, and so he has to run over to her house to try to, reconcile things. And when he gets there, we get more insight from Dave and Diana. David refuses to let let Shaun up because Liz does not want to see him.
I do think it's funny, though. He's like, I'm just going to climb up through the window. Yeah. And then he absolutely does not climb up through. He's like, can you please let me in?
We get one of those shots that is, again, this movie, if you guys haven't seen it, they repeat shots several times in this film. In the beginning and then at the end. And it's this is one of the shots where it pans over and shows the window and you hear him grunting. And then a second later, you hear the buzzer again. He's like, Can you just let me in? Because I can't climb up the damn window. So they let him in, and Liz is getting ready upstairs. Excuse me, the beer. And she basically says, you know what, this is your last straw, Shaun. I can't take this anymore. I'm going out with Dave and Di. So we're basically done. She says, you said you quit smoking when I did. You said you go back to the gym. You said you would try red wine instead of beer. And he's just like, what? No, well. He's like, no.
Classic girls doing their things with classic guys. Doing stereotypical guy things. Yeah, I'm going to change, babe.
He's like,
never changes.
Go to the gym.
Absolutely. Still smoking. Does not go to the gym.
He's like, red wine instead of beer?
Yeah, he literally had a pint yesterday.
Yeah, I know. And he goes and has a pint after this. So Liz essentially breaks up with him, and I love the part here after she goes back to her bedroom because I don't remember what David says. He says something, though, that's just arrogant and asshole-ish because this guy He's the worst. David's the worst character in this
David
whole
is
film.
set up to be hated.
Oh, absolutely,
And
yeah.
I hate him. So
I absolutely hate him. They did a great
job.
Yeah. But David said something, and Shaun just yells, "Get fucked for us."
It is. I don't think it warranted that. Like, what did I say?
Yeah. I love that line right there. I love the delivery of it. And it's after this point, Shaun accuses David of loving Liz. And David then is just like, "What? No, I never loved her." And he's like trying to play it off because Diane's there, and she is his girlfriend currently. And so he's just trying to play this off and everything. But it's very apparent that she knows that he's in love with her. And that's why earlier we said David did not like Shaun, because David's been trying to get with Liz since college.
Well, and Shaun's a kind of a deadbeat. So why would you pick him over picking me? Because I'm successful and all
He's
this
a
other
lecturer.
stuff. Ooh-wee.
Even though Shaun, I think he says he's like an accountant or something like that. And he's like, "I'm a lecturer."
He's an accountant.
He's an accountant. So after this, again, like I said, Liz dumps Shaun and kicks him out, and we get some great, timing of the rain, because as soon as he gets kicked out, it's like very sad. It's like pouring rain down. So Ed takes Shaun to the Winchester that night to try to cheer him up. Naturally, as you do. And there we get some great banter between the two of them. You really kind of discover, how good of friends they actually are, because Ed's trying to cheer him up entirely. He talks about several people around the pub and everything about like their lives, as different people, because Liz said that she didn't want to spend the rest of her life getting drunk at the Winchester like the rest of the sad fuckers around. And Ed's like, these people aren't sad. He's like
just making up all these random backstories.
He's like, there's snake hips, He's always trying to buy women, and he's
wearing those fancy red boots.
And then the one behind him is like, what does he say? He's like, she's a porn actress or something. I forget what he calls her though, the coccicidal maniac or something like that. Yeah. And then the bartender is actually in the mafia. That's why the Winchester's above the bar, because it's like a real gun. And they keep alluding the entire time the gun is not real. They're like, the Winchester above the bar is not real.
Ed thinks it's real. Ed's like, it's real, and dogs don't look up.
And dogs don't look up. There's a lot of cool, like a lot of good references they keep coming back to, because they say that quite often. But regardless, they end up getting drunk and wasted that night. And then when they go home, they pass a couple on the street that were earlier they were making out, and now the guy's head falls off his shoulders when they walk out of the bar, because the zombie apocalypse has begun.
Yeah, it's set kind of in the background as a peripheral, and they walk out hammered drunk.
Absolutely.
And they're like, "Oh, they're still sitting there making out," but they're not though. Yeah,
they're like pissed drunk, and they start singing a song, and they're walking down the street, and there's a zombie walking towards them, and they're like singing with them, and they're like, "Dude, say the right lyrics." And he's just like, and they're like, "Oh, this guy's drunk too." Then they go home, and I love the scene here where it's just like they're just having a great time. And again, I think this really draws on the fact that Simon Pegg and Nick Frost were real life friends in real life, and they fought to get Nick Frost in that role. Like the producers wanted someone.
He didn't really have much acting prior to this, right?
The producers wanted someone who was a better, like a
because he was in that TV
actor.
show, but other than that, I don't think he had a whole lot.
Space was his first acting, and then. This was like the second thing they had, but Wright and Pegg wanted Nick Frost in it because they're like, well, we're actually really good friends. I promise you, our chemistry will be.
I mean, it worked out great. Like especially the bromance was natural, and you could tell.
So while they're partying, having a great time, listening to records and everything, drunk off their asses, their roommate Pete comes down, turns off the music, and throws Shaun's record out the window. No, that's my second record I ever bought. And he's like, I have to go to work in 4 hours because all my coworkers are sick and they called off and everything. And honestly, this is just a great sling of obscenities that go off here. He starts like yelling just the F word a ton here.
Listen, though, that's in the R-rated exclusive. So if you're watching the TV version, you're doing yourself misjustice or injustice, rather.
I feel like this is one of those movies that you can't really watch censored. You need to watch this movie.
Well, like I said, I didn't even realize how much I had missed until rewatching it.
You miss a good bit of like just like funny dialogue. Like it's like
there are a ton of F-bombs.
There's a ton
like
of them,
way more than I remember. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I watched this. I was sitting after work at school watching this. Thankfully, all the kids had left though, so I was like, I'm okay. But Pete throws his window out the record, and he tells
window right out the record. Record right out the window. Just that's why I'm here.
That's why he's here. You know what? I'm drunk. So
Schmammered.
I'm not. It is hot though. He throws his record out the window and basically just straight up tells Ed, "You need to get out of here." I'm done having you in my house. It's time for you to go. And Shaun tries to stand up for him, and he's just like, why do you always stand up for this deadbeat? You know, if you want to live like an animal, go live in the shed. And again, foreshadowing there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then after Pete leaves, Ed says, you know, next time I see him, he's dead. And that, again, foreshadowing there. And so they wake up the next morning, and they're both hungover. And so Shaun goes back to the shop. He, you know, asks Ed anything from the shop. He's at Cornetto.
Naturally.
Yep. And he hungover, walks back to the shop. And this is where we first get an actual glimpse of what has happened overnight. Oh, also, I didn't even mention, Pete got bit.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
during that whole spat, he's like, I've got this terrible headache. I got to go to work in 4 hours. He's like, some crackhead came home and bit me, or, you know,
He
tried
got
to mug
mugged,
me.
yeah.
And, you know, I'm going to go upstairs and get some sleep. You all need to keep it down.
Yeah, so he has like a bite on his hand. I completely forgot to mention that part.
It might be important.
A little bit important. So again, Shaun's walking to the shop, and again, like you said, this is the part where it perfectly mirrors the first time he's walking to the shop, but it's like completely dead. No pun intended.
Well,
all
he's
around him.
he's hungover, and
He
there's
is.
busted cars. There's people laying dead. It's the same exact thing. It's just everything's in a disarray now.
Exactly.
Even when he walks into the store, he somehow misses. There's bloody prints.
bloody handprints
he
on the wall,
slips.
yeah.
It doesn't show it, but I'm pretty sure he slips in blood. Like
Oh, yeah.
when he's walking. Then he goes to pay. He's like, "Hey, you know, where's the shopkeep at?" And he's like, "All right, I left the money on the
He's
thing."
like, Nigel, you don't have any papers this morning? He's like, I owe you 15p, which I'm assuming is 15 pound. I don't know British money.
Yes.
But I'm not getting
Is it
into it.
pence?
Is it pence?
I don't remember.
Because a pound is like $1, right?
I'm an ignorant American. I don't know anything outside the metric system.
And so I don't know. I'm sorry. England, don't hate us.
He's not sorry.
I'm sorry. But yeah, regardless, he grabs his Diet Coke this time because remember, he's changing for Liz.
Oh, true. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it is a nice ode into. He completely changes his character.
Yeah, he's trying to better himself because before he passes out the night before, he goes over and writes a note on the message board for himself. He's like, get Liz back, you know, take flowers to mom or something, and get your life
Get
together.
your shit together is what
Yeah.
he says. Yeah.
So he's trying to get his life together by getting a Diet Coke instead of a Coke.
That logic's always flawless. 12 hot dogs, 1 Diet Coke.
There you go. The Diet Coke cancels out the
It
sugars.
cancels it out.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm thinking about this, but you've seen the 1,000-Pound Sister show on TLC, right?
Of course. You don't know. The
You don't know. It's that part though where they're talking to the nutritionist, and they're
Oh, the
like,
12
"How much
sodies?
water do you drink?" They're like, "None." How much pop do you drink? 12 sodies a day. It's like Mom said if we had a sugar, the Diet Coke would cancel it out.
That's how that works.
It's like that's not how that works at all.
That's
I don't know why I'm thinking about
public
that.
education really let us down.
Yep. That's me. Oh. So regardless, Shaun heads back, completely ignoring all of the chaos that's going on around him.
Well, to his, justification, he is hungover.
He
and,
is.
we've all been there. The next day you're hungover. You're not really paying a whole lot of attention. You have one task. You're a one-track man.
He's very much on a one-track
I'm getting
mind
ice
here.
cream. I'm getting my
I'm getting my Diet Coke, my ice cream,
and I'm going
getting
home.
out.
Right.
Yep. So then he gets back to the house, and he sits down to watch TV. And again, I love the editing style here because he's flipping through the channels, and it cuts perfectly on the words for each one. It's like, there are like...
Well, the news anchor, my favorite one of that, the news anchor's like, the world is, like, people are out doing, and then it cuts over to an Animal Planet, like, documentary.
Eating
It's like, eating each other, blah, 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 alive. And it's just, the editing style is really great in that regard.
And as he's watching TV, completely ignoring everything that's being said on TV, by the way, he's like...
Well, channel flipping like a mindless zombie.
Exactly. We cut over to Ed, who's in the window. Like, he's got the curtains pulled around his head. He's like, there's a girl in your garden. And he's like, what? And he comes out behind the curtain. He's like, there's a girl in the garden. I don't know why it's so funny to me that he was just in the curtains.
I don't know, because I feel like that's a little kid thing to do. Like,
It very
as a
much
little
is,
kid, it's like,
yeah.
I'm going to go hide in the curtains and, like, pull it up over my head and just kind of... I feel like everybody did that. And if you didn't have a good
Honestly,
childhood.
that's a good point because it's very much showcasing that Ed is a child.
Well,
even though
yeah, he's immature in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that just reiterates that.
Yeah, so regardless, they go outside and they see that there is indeed a girl in the garden. It's the Mary girl from before. And she turns around, if they start yelling at her, she turns around. They're just like, oh, she's drunk.
So the point I wanted to make earlier, I said, remind me, come back to it, is here, is I feel like why I love this movie is they treated exactly how people would act normally to seeing
absolutely.
a quote-unquote zombie. Because they're like, oh, this chick's just hammered, dude. She's crazy hammered. And then she, like, tries to get on top of him and, trying to bite him. She's like, dude, she wants me. It's crazy. Hold on. And then Ed runs in there, like, dude, let me get a picture real quick. Hold on.
Disposable camera.
Yeah. So I feel like it's just very appropriate how they treated a zombie outbreak. Because, I feel like everyone's going to doubt it if it really happened. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, yeah, zombies.
I mean, you're not wrong because... It's apparent, too, that they know of zombies because Ed says the word zombies and Shaun's like, we're not using the Z word.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, everyone knows of the zombie lore and everything, but, it's fake. It's not real.
Exactly,
so then when it does come real, it's like, wait a minute, hold up.
Well, yeah, like, surely this would never actually happen in real life. But
right.
Yeah. So... They do get attacked by Mary, and there is that funny moment where they're just like, oh, dude, she's totally into you, man. Like, she totally wants you. And Shaun's like, Ed, get her off of me. Come on, since she's, like, very strong. And he finally pushes her off of him. And as they do, they go back. I don't remember. They see the second guy, right? Like, the big guy.
No. So what happens first is... she's like all over Shaun and trying to, eat
they push
him.
her into the pipe.
So they push her, and she falls into this pipe that's sticking up out of the ground, and it impales her. Mm-hmm. And then she just, she dies for a second, and they're like, oh my gosh, we just killed someone. And then she lifts herself off the pipe, very strategically placed camera where you can see right through it, which was an awesome effect, by the way.
Yeah.
And then they're like, wait a minute, there's something horribly
Hold
wrong.
up, this ain't okay. And then
you see Big Chubbs with
Big Chubbs
with the ketchup stain on his lip.
Very much ketchup stain all over his face. He'd been eating a hot dog before this.
He had 2 chili dogs.
So then they see the second guy. They run back inside, and that's when they finally learn shit's going down.
Well, they start paying attention to the anchor, who very conveniently tells them, "Is like, hey,
destroy the head.
Blunt trauma to the head will kill them." Mm-hmm. Everything he says, it's so conveniently timed. It's comical.
Horror movie got a horror, man.
I mean, that's fair.
Plot convenience. You got to let them know. My concern, and again, I know we're nitpicking here, but how would a news anchor, in the short amount of time it's been since the outbreak, know that destroying the head or brain?
Okay, I feel like that's rational though, because who announces all the news? So anybody with any source of information is probably going to report it, and it's going to eventually get to the news, right?
Well, yeah, but who's
I'm just saying, all the time something happens on Facebook, something stupid that somebody posts, the news immediately picks up on it. It's like courtesy of some dude holding the shakiest iPhone in the world.
All right, well let's assume that's true. The news got their source from Big John on Facebook.
I mean, if you put
who's gonna be believable enough to be, oh yeah, go out and cut random people's heads off.
I mean, if there's zombie and there's a whole apocalypse happening, maybe. Who else are you gonna listen to?
Not Facebook.
Well, no, but if you listen to the news media,
I mean, I guess. I don't know. I just was like, I don't know. I that's just me nitpicking there. I'm like, how would they?
I think it's plausible.
Have known in that short amount of time.
Maybe old Dan Rather or whatever the news anchor's name is.
I don't remember.
I don't either. But maybe he was just like he
killed
a zombie on the way to work.
He killed his wife actually.
You don't know that.
Cut all their heads off.
But he's super dedicated to his job.
So, regardless, they learn how to dispose of the zombies now, and just in the nick of time, because as they do, a one-armed zombie walks into their living room, because it's been a recurring gag the whole time that Shaun does not lock the front door.
Well, no, it's Ed's fault.
Oh, Ed doesn't, yeah.
Ed keeps leaving the door open because Pete comes down and yells at him. And he's like, well, you didn't do this. You keep leaving the door open. He's like, I know it's Ed, but you should do it. You should take care of it.
And so in walks this one-armed zombie, and I love the reaction that Shaun and Ed had to this zombie, because he walks in, they're just like, ah! Like, they both panic and freak out.
Sure.
But it's like a very comedic reaction, though, to it. I understand that, obviously, yes, you're going to panic if a one-armed man walked into your house, like, bloodied and, like, staggering towards you. But the reaction they have is just, I laugh every time I see that scene.
Well, leading into that, it's funny. So earlier when Philip came down and he was messing with their turntables and stuff, and they're being loud at 4 a.m. when he's complaining, he took that one and he threw it out the window, as you said. Mm-hmm. So after they dispose of that zombie because they heard just on TV, hey, if you do blunt force trauma to the head, it'll kill him.
Yeah.
So Ed picks up the ashtray, the glass ashtray, and smashes him. So they go back outside to deal with Mary and then the other dude, and they see that record out there. And it's funny, Ed goes to throw. He's like, no, that's my second record. He throws it again, and he hits him right in the face. And he's like, hold on. So they go get a whole big stack of his records. And one of the best parts of this movie, they're sitting there picking through. It's like, no, wait. No, that's Queen. No, don't want to throw that one out.
Yeah,
and then
Princess Purple Rain is like,
and then
no.
it's like Batman soundtracks. Like, dude, that one's good. Throw it.
And I also just love the way they throw them. It's just like, and just like whizzing by. And they don't hit a damn thing.
Well, they did on the first one. And then after that, they just chew. And then just
chucking frisbees. Yeah. But what's funny too is the very first, I don't remember what record it is, but the very first one that Ed throws, he's like, no, that was original press. And he's just like, oh shit, that sucks. Because he just was like trying to get him out of there quickly and throw him.
Well, naturally, as you would.
Yeah. Well, first, before they throw records, though, they throw just random household objects at him. They have like a telephone and like all kinds of random shit. And then like, what's in the shed? And Shaun's like, I don't know, I've never been in the shed. It's been locked since I've lived here. And so they run out of records and they run in and he's like, you know what, screw it. Bust in the shed. And here's where we get the classic cricket bat and the shovel.
Yep.
So they come out with the bat and the shovel.
Well, it's not like a traditional shovel. It's I don't know what.
It's a spade.
Yeah.
Yeah. Spade, a shovel. They're like
Well, it's different though because it's long. It almost is like a cricket bat, like in its length of the actual head of the shovel, as opposed to being a traditional kind of triangle.
Just like a triangle. It's more like oblong, I guess. Or
it's
like,
more of a blunt object as opposed to necessarily being a
sharp.
Maybe it's more for shallow digging. I don't know. Irrelevant. I just
I
wanted to note that it's a British shovel.
It's a British shovel. It comes out with the British shovel.
Stop. No one like that.
Oh God. Regardless though, they come out and Ed's like, do you want the big guy or the girl? And Shaun's like, I'll take the latter. And he's like, switch sides. Excuse me. And they just go, okay, 3, 2, 1, and just beat the ever-loving shit out of these two zombies. And here's another moment too where they're getting sprayed with blood and they walk back inside and there's another like classic, you got red on you.
You got red on. I think it said like 4 times throughout the film.
I think Noel says like
least
twice.
3.
Yeah.
Because his mom says it in a couple scenes later.
Mm-hmm. It's said several times throughout the film.
It's at least 3, possibly 4.
But regardless, I've said regardless like 17 times. Take a shot every time I've said regardless in this episode.
This has become a drinking game.
A drinking game. I mean, shit. So they go back inside after killing the 2 zombies, and they learn more about the virus. They kind of,
they listen to the news
apocalypse.
Media, listening about the end of times and all this other stuff.
How it's like the end of times, it's the apocalypse
and it's
of the
like,
world.
I cannot stress enough, do not leave your home.
They're like, we should leave our home.
First thing,
we gotta get out of here.
Well, that leads into one of the best Edgar Wright moments in the film where Shaun comes up with these genius plans where he's like, all right, so we're going to get my mom, we're going to get Liz, and then we're going to go hang out at Liz's house and wait for this whole thing to blow over.
We're going to have some tea, wait for the whole thing to blow over. Well, before we get there, Shaun does call his mother, make sure she's okay, and then she lets him know that Phil got bit.
Well, yeah, so Shaun's like, because it says on the news thing, it's like, if you get bit, you're going to turn into a zombie. So Shaun immediately calls his mom. It's like, Mom, have you been bitten? Have you been bitten? Because she's complaining that somebody broke into their home and is assaulting them. She's like, no, Phil has. And then the look of relief on Shaun's face is like, oh, thank goodness.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay, great.
And then Ed comes up and he's like, is Barbara okay? And he's like, yeah, but Phil's been bitten. He's like, oh, okay.
No one cares.
He does not care.
Phil's just the worst, apparently.
But yeah, they call her and they say, okay, well, stay there. Ed and I are coming to get you. And they also, too, at this point, realize that Pete is probably dead as well because he had the bite on his hand and his keys are still at the house. Right. And that makes Ed happy because Ed wants to drive his car. He's like, I've been wanting to drive Pete's car.
Yeah, I don't know why,
so
but
long.
Honestly, though, that reminds me a lot of Ryan. I feel like that's such a Ryan tendency to be like, man, I've always wanted to drive Pete's car. Like, that doesn't even make sense. Why would you want... Who cares about Pete's car?
Because I want to drive Pete's car.
But that's a Ryan thing, 100%.
It's so... I'm glad you mentioned that now because it's so funny. Not all the qualities, but I totally see us in Shaun and Ed.
There are some qualities you do possess in Ed.
Yeah.
You know, like the stoner, not
going
going to work, part of paying
never
bills.
going to work, yeah. Smoke all the weed, never go to work. But regardless, they come up with like several different plans about what they're gonna do. Like the first one, they're gonna take Pete's car. They're gonna go get Barbara. They're gonna kill Phil. Go to Liz's. Chill out there, have some tea, wait for all this to blow over.
No, wait, that's not going to work.
He wants to be someplace. Ed wants to be someplace familiar.
Well, I need someplace I can smoke.
Exactly.
Because
So
you can't just smoke at people's houses, I guess.
I mean, it's courtesy. Ed's a courteous person.
You ask. Oh, he is a courteous person.
Ed is a courteous person.
Sure.
So then Shaun's like, okay, well, we'll take the car, go to Mom's, kill Phil, go to Liz's, bring her back here, have some tea, and wait for all this to blow over.
Wait. Why are you getting Liz?
Because I still love her.
And then the best part of the thing, I'm pretty sure this is exclusive to the R-rated version. He goes, "Huh, gay?"
He does, yeah.
And I don't know. I
don't remember hearing that.
I don't either. I don't remember that from the original film. I feel like that would have been something that definitely stuck in my mind.
Yeah.
But,
well, I mean, hearing that, though, is 100% 2004. Because that's the same kind of crap we said in middle school.
Well, sure. You punch someone and go, "Huh, gay?"
Yeah.
Sure.
Like, this is 100% early 2000s humor in its finest right now. Obviously, not okay now. Like, we're, like, 100% support LGBT community, but still, 2004 was a different time period. Regardless, they end up with the final plan, which I have written down here. Take car, go to Mom's, kill Phil, sorry. Grab Liz,
He's
go to the
not sorry.
Winchester, have a nice cold pint, and wait for all this to blow over. And that's where we get the classic, one of my favorite lines in this film. Ed has his shovel, and Shaun's got his cricket bat. He's like, "Yeah, boy!" And they just like
they click
smash
it
them together. Yeah.
The thing is, though, you got to understand the editing style of Edgar Wright is it really shines through on this scene specifically because they run through 3 different plans, but it's like this quick montage. Like earlier, or actually no, in the scene coming up, Shaun goes to use the bathroom, and just like a normal bathroom scene is like pee, flush, hand wash, and it's just the way it's cut.
It's very fast paced.
It almost seems like this action scene, like, oh, I'm getting ready to, but it's just him peeing. It's just an interesting way of telling a other mundane story.
It honestly rivals the pee scene of Scott Pilgrim.
I do love the pee scene.
Although the pee scene in Scott Pilgrim, I have something in my throat, man. I want to drink some water. Hold on.
It's a frog.
I don't know what it is. I got it's like a tickle in my throat.
So you're talking about the pee scene where it's like with the pee meter?
With the pee bar, yeah. Because Edgar Wright also directed Scott Pilgrim, if you guys didn't know that.
We do love that film.
And it's just like he goes to pee, and it's just like pee bar, and it just goes down. It's like
The second he's done peeing, boop, the bar's gone.
Yep. So after Shaun gets done peeing, though, we get the mirror scene again because in the beginning of the movie he closed the mirror and saw Pete behind him. This time, though, he sees Pete's reflection behind him, and it's not reflection but shadow in the shower. And he opens the shower curtain up.
Pete's naked.
And Pete's naked, but he's also dead. He's a zombie in the shower. And so Shaun locks him in the bathroom and runs out. And they grab the car and they go outside. And
Pete would be so pissed if he knew he was using our car. I don't think he would be. I don't think he'd be that
I
mad.
don't think he's going to care right now, yeah. But when they go outside to get in the car, Ed, not knowing which button unlocks it, turns on the alarm. And that signals all the zombies around.
Best case scenario.
Yeah, to start walking towards them. Also, I didn't mention this. When they're on the phone with Shaun's mom, Ed says, "We're coming to get you, Barbara." And it's a reference to the first Night of the Living Dead. Because in that, I don't remember what the character's name is, but the brother of Barbara.
Is it Barbara?
No, it's the brother. It's the very opening scene within the cemetery. He's like, "They're coming to get you, Barbara." And so here, Ed's like, "We're coming to get you, Barbara."
Yeah.
So regardless, they get in the car, they drive over, and along the way, they hit someone. And I love this part. Oh,
yeah, this is classic.
Yeah, I love it because he like hits someone, it rolls over to the car, and Ed's like, "I think we hit something," and Shaun's like, "Or someone," and they back up, and Shaun rolls his window, and he's just like, "Hello."
And you just see this guy's
He's,
legs
like, all
broken.
mangled,
It's almost like that Family Guy when you fall and it's like, it has that random like.
Yeah. He's very much just like ragdolled at this point. And there's like, "Hello, or are you okay?" And they wait a couple seconds, and he finally just gets up, and they see his eyes are glazed over, and it's very much apparent he was a zombie. And Shaun's just like, "Oh, thank God." And then they drive off down the road, leaving him behind. When they get to Barbara's house, Ed realizes that Barbara has a Jaguar in the driveway.
Oh,
He's just like,
I'd love
I don't
to
know
drive
what
that.
his like obsession is with cars. I guess he's just a car guy.
Here it comes back to like Ryan's tendencies.
What?
Like in a
God,
in a
what?
minute from now, I'll explain. So he sees the Jaguar, and then he's like, "Hey, I'll
already know what you're gonna
I'll
say."
hold down the car. Shaun, you go inside to tend to your mom and Phil." And
I
he's
gotta
like,
protect
"All right."
the car. Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna protect the car. All right.
So Shaun goes inside to get his mother, and she's very reluctant to leave Phil behind.
Well, they've been married 17 years.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. She's like, the doctor's on his way, and Shaun's like, I don't think the doctor's coming. I don't think they're coming at all. And she's very much just like straight up mother. She's like, are you hungry? Do you want me to make some sandwiches?
How about some tea?
How about some tea? Yeah. And he's like, okay, yeah, sure. Go put on a kettle, and everything. And there's a line here where she asks Shaun if he wants sugar, and he says, I've not had sugar in my tea since 82.
92.
Was it 92? I thought it was
Pretty
82.
sure it's 92.
I thought he said 82.
I guess we'll agree to disagree here.
Okay.
But I could have swore he said 92 because I was like, that's the year I was born.
I'm pretty sure it's 82 though. I don't know.
Results
It's not
may vary.
important whatsoever.
It's super important. There's a whole nod to it. There's one scene later to it that he has.
There is a joke later on with it, but regardless, he goes into the living room to check on Phil while his mom's making tea. And we get this, I love it, because we get this scene where Shaun's raising the cricket bat up above his head to get ready to strike him. He's like, I'm so sorry, Phil. And Phil's just like, for what? Did you forget the flowers again? And Shaun's like very much taken back. He's like, oh shit, he's still alive.
That's stepdad for you.
Yeah. And so we get this like comedic moment here where obviously Phil's been bitten. He's going to turn into a zombie eventually, but he hasn't yet. And so Shaun's trying to force them to get out of the house. So they can get to safety.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm sick, and I'm gonna and then he gets mad because the wife called the doctor, or the mom called the doctor.
Yeah, he's like, "Why'd you call the doctor?
Why'd you call the doctor? Are we fine?"
He's like, "I'm gonna be fine." It's
need to
very
rest.
much like old school dad.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, just rub a little bit of dirt on it. It's gonna be okay.
I just need some. What's the stuff from Resident Evil 8? I just need some of that stuff.
Oh my god, some chem fluid.
Yeah, I just need some chem fluid. I'll regrow my limb back.
God. So eventually, though, Shaun is able to convince them to leave the house, and they go outside, and Shaun's like talking to Ed. He's like, Ed, where's the car?
Oh my! This is the Ryan tendency I was telling you about. So it pans over, and the car's totaled in the street pole or like street sign.
He plotted
He's
a
like, I
street
guess
sign.
we'll just have to take the Jaguar now. Yeah, okay, Ryan. Thanks.
He's like, you were parked. He's like, oh, you know.
It happens.
It
Yeah.
happened.
Okay, Ryan.
So
I mean, Ed.
they, I'm not Ed. I am. So they go to take the Jaguar, and Phil refuses to let anyone drive his car. However, before they're able to go anywhere, they are attacked by a group of zombies, and Phil is bitten yet again in the neck. This time, like,
It's pretty
real bad.
Like, yeah.
Like it takes a big chunk out of his neck. So eventually he gives the keys to Shaun. Shaun tosses them to Ed. They all pile in the car, and they head over to Liz's. When he gets to Liz's, Shaun tells Ed to kind of drive around the block and keep his his mom and his stepdad
Well,
safe.
there's a ton of zombies, so it would kind
There's
of
a lot,
it just
yeah.
makes sense to keep moving.
Yeah, keep the car moving. So Shaun gets out, and I love the editing here. He runs up, and he's just like smacking zombies.
Well,
as
okay,
he
so
runs
it's funny him getting out of the car because Phil has the child locks on, and Phil
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and so Shaun goes to get out of the back seat. He's like, "Really, Phil? You still have the child locks on?" And he's like, "Safety first."
Safety first.
So he climbs out the sunroof.
Yeah, and there's also a line too where Ed says, "Hey, watch the leather," and I think that's a reference to Dazed and Confused, because Matthew McConaughey's character, I think it's Matthew McConaughey's character,
Not a clue.
says that in that movie. But again, yeah, Shaun's running across the lawn, and he's like just smacking these zombies left and right. He gets up to the door, and he rings the doorbell, and he's like fixing his hair in the mirror while all these zombies are just behind him. It's
Well,
like,
his hand's covered in blood and everything, and he goes, he
like
wants to
just
look
fixing
good
his
for his
hair.
girlfriend, and oh, never mind. So
Yeah.
he dials in, he tries to call, and then they pick up the phone. They just hear like like whatever noises, and it's funny because earlier when I mentioned he's going to climb up the window, and then he doesn't. But in this one, he's a changed man. He got the
Exactly.
Diet Coke. Now he can climb up windows.
no, he got
He's
the
a
Diet
changed
Coke, so he
man.
can climb up windows.
He
now.
didn't have all those extra calories holding him back.
He got those 0 calories in him, so he can climb up the window now. Honestly, you'd think you would need the calories for that, though. You're exerting a bunch of energy.
Well, yeah, but I guess they're not American. I'd say if we're American, we have too many calories. So being
That's
British,
true.
maybe he has just the right amount.
Just the right amount of calories for this. But yeah, he does climb up the window. He gets inside, and he convinces them all they need to go to the Winchester. The one place Liz did not want to die in, he says, we're going to be safe there.
We're going to go there. I promise we're not going to die. We're
going to be good, yeah. So obviously there's a lot of tension between him and David. David does not want to leave, but eventually he convinces them all to go. And David's just like, well, I'm not going to stay here by myself, so I guess I'm coming with you guys. I don't even know, man. His character irritates me so much.
Well, that's the point. That's the point of his character, because he's like, oh, Liz, don't listen to him. Don't go. And he kind of completely ignores his girlfriend almost the whole time.
He ignores her completely, yeah. Because he's so focused, like hyper-focused on Liz, and she's single now for the first time in 3 years.
Yeah, so, 1 day single.
Yeah. He's going to swoop in and be the good
typical guy. Slide in DM.
He's going to swoop and be that typical nice guy. And be like, oh, hey, nice it's okay. So... Shaun convinces Liz, Di, and David to all get in the car with him, and I love how they just all pile in the car together. He puts Liz up front with his mom. This is the first time she's ever met Liz. He's just like, Mom, Liz, Mom.
Yeah, that was another complaint at the very beginning of the movie. They kind of alluded to, oh, I've never even met his mom before, and they've been dating for 3 years.
Yeah, and David's like, do you hate your mom, Shaun? And he's like, no, I love my mom. It's like, then why hasn't Liz ever met her? So they all pile in this car, and they start driving down the road heading towards the Winchester. And keep in mind, Ed is driving this like a Fast and Furious movie. He's got this thing.
It's amazing.
Skeeting down the street. So while he's driving, we have this little moment between Phil and Shaun, where Phil ends up he's very much going to die. He's on his last legs here. He kind of leans over and gives Shaun this heartfelt speech saying, it's never easy being a father. I met you when you were 12. You were already grown. It's kind of hard to make,
Well, I just want him to be a good guy.
Exactly.
I want you to grow up to be a good guy, so that's why it's hard on you, this whole heartfelt, sentimental thing.
Yeah, he said, I've always loved you, Shaun. And after that, Phil does die. I sound like I'm getting all teary-eyed, but I swear it's just something in my throat.
He's emotional.
I'm very emotional, okay? So Phil dies, and there's this very emotional scene. It's mixed in with comedy, though, because Shaun's like, Mom, Phil's gone. And she's like, where's he gone?
Yeah. where is he? He's in the back seat, right? Where is he?
Back.
Geographically, he's still here.
And Shaun's like, no, he's dead. And she looks up in the window, in the mirror. She's like, no, he's not. He's still alive. And Shaun looks over, and Philip has reanimated as a zombie. And obviously, they freak out. They're just like, get out of the car. Get out now. And so the child locks are still on the door, so they can't open up the door.
Oh, and everybody panics.
And everyone
Ed panics too. He's not going to open the door at all.
Yeah, there's this moment where Ed just walks over. He's just on his cell phone. He's just like...
He's always on his daggone phone.
So Liz eventually opens the door for them. They get out. And as they're getting out of the car, Shaun's mother kicks the stereo and turns on Ed's music again. And I love
this whole time, Ed's been playing this really loud, obnoxious music.
And Phil's been telling him to turn it off the whole time. And then when they get out of the car, Shaun's like, Phil's gone. There's nothing left of the man that you loved. He's not the same person anymore. He's not your husband anymore, yeah. And he's like, there's nothing left of him anymore. And he's watching the background as Philip climbs over the top and turns the music off in the radio. He's just like, we gotta go. We gotta get out of here. So they try to make their way to the Winchester. And along the way, we see some dead bodies on the street. We see Snake Hips, who was in the bar earlier. He has been killed, and he's surrounded by women, just like Ed joked about earlier at the pub. And we also run into Yvonne's gang. Yvonne's a character, I don't think we talked about her in the beginning. We run into her.
Yeah, Shaun met her earlier, I think, on his way back the first time from the
shop, yeah.
He's like, oh, hey, how you doing? It doesn't really establish other than they're just friends.
They've just been friends since college, I think.
Yeah.
And honestly, truly, I think what it is, it's just supposed to be a reference to the fact they were both in space together. Because Yvonne is played by his co-star from Spaced.
Right.
And so, truthfully...
Another reference.
I think what it truly is because we don't get a whole lot of establishment here, is I think it's just supposed to be an inside joke for those who watched Spaced and was just like, oh, they're just ex-roommates because, they're from that. And here, we get introduced to Yvonne's gang, and that perfectly parallels Shaun's. Because you've got Shaun and Yvonne, you've got Shaun's girlfriend Liz, and Yvonne's boyfriend, who is Martin Freeman, who is Bilbo Baggins.
In The Hobbit.
In The Hobbit, yeah. Right. And then you have Shaun's girlfriend's friends and Yvonne's boyfriend's friends. And then you have Yvonne's mother, Shaun's mother, and then their other like friends who are just on the back on their phones.
It's funny, yeah, because Ed's
back there
perfectly
just, like, on
replicated
their
with
phone
somebody
the whole
else that's
time.
just on their phone during a zombie apocalypse on their phone.
Yeah. And then as they pass each other again as they leave, they all just like perfectly parallel one another, just like, oh hey,
Oh hey, how's it going?
yeah. And then
They're dressed similarly and everything.
Ed and the guy in the back of the group swap out, and they're just like, all right. So they try to make their way to the Winchester, and here we have some physical comedy involved because there's a bunch of fences they have to hop over to get to the Winchester to get through this like residential neighborhood.
Slapstick comedy.
Slapstick comedy, yeah. And I have it here in my notes. I love the fence gag because it's replicated later on in Hot Fuzz, but it's done differently.
Yeah.
Because here, Shaun goes to hop over the fence, and the fence just falls flat. And he, like, falls on his face, and he hops up. He's like, I'm okay.
Okay, guys.
But later in Hot Fuzz, if you guys have seen that movie, he's, like, a professional police officer. He's, like, very uptight and serious and everything. And there's a fence gag where he goes and hops over all these fences, and he does it perfectly. He's just, like, jumping, like, front flips and everything.
Yeah.
And then, I forget Nick Frost's character's name in Hot Fuzz. Danny goes to run and hop over the fence, and he just runs right through the fence. So it's interesting to see these kind of like similarities done in the movies who are directed by the same people, written by the same people, and starring the same people. So I mean, obviously you're gonna have that, but I do love that little nod there to Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz. So as they're making way through the residential neighborhood, we have a zombie attack here. That's essentially.
Well, so after he does all the fences and everything, it's the part where he's like, his mom alludes like, "Hey, I think one of my friends lives around here."
Yeah, and so she stays behind and gets attacked by a zombie who lived there, and everyone else makes it over the fences, and they go to count, make sure everyone's there, and they realize that his mom is missing. And so Shaun, at this point, he jumps on a trampoline and does like a flip over the fence.
Overly
overly exaggerated, yeah. But again, he's trying to prove his point to Liz. He's like,
a changed
I'm
man.
a changed
He's
man.
apparently going to the gym now and can do front flips on many trampolines.
And in one night, he's gone to the gym and done all this stuff and trained.
He's one rep stronger.
We basically had a whole like 80s training montage where he just like gets stronger and everything. But he flips over the fence, gets back there, finds his mother. She seems okay. And she's like, I don't think this is so-and-so's house.
No, but ain't that?
It's not their house, no. And they get attacked by a zombie wearing pajamas.
Some dude in a robe.
Ultimately, he crashes them through the fence. And ultimately, Shaun is able to stake him to a tree with a tetherball pole.
Well, what's funny is he takes the tetherball and he goes to hit him with it. And he hits him with the little dinky ball.
With, like, the tennis ball,
and then
yeah.
you look over and Liz and, Liz's friend, they're like, no, dude, like, impale him, stab him. What are you trying to hit him with the little ball for?
He's just, like, swinging around. He's just, like...
Yeah, he's swinging around like he would an actual tetherball, like he's trying to play the game.
Yeah. And it does absolutely nothing for him. But they do impale him to the tree. And it's here that I also, again, love the editing here in this part. Because Shaun, like, climbs up this little, like, tiny little slide to check out, make sure the coast is clear for the Winchester. And he climbs back down. All you see is just the bottom of his legs. He climbs back down, and he's just like, is the coast clear? And he's just like, nope. They're like, are there zombies? He's like, lots. And it pans up over and just shows the entire street is flooded with zombies in front of the Winchester. So they have to come up with this plan to get to the Winchester. And Diane, who is apparently a failed actress, as Shaun calls her, comes up with the idea that they need to blend in with the crowds. They have to pretend to be zombies.
Yeah, and they all give like haphazard performances, except
Absolutely.
Shaun's is really
good. Yeah,
and
Shaun
Ed's
does a
like,
great job.
all right, that actually was pretty.
Because
good.
they're like bickering back and forth because Ed's obviously not caring at all.
Ed
He's
is not
like,
putting any effort into it, as his life is.
Yeah, he's like, come on. He's like, come on, you can do better than that. And he's like, well, let me see you do better. And Shaun gets a great performance. He's like, okay, yeah, that's pretty.
All right,
good.
that was pretty cool.
All right, that was pretty cool. Yeah. So after they all kind of go through their line of pretending to be zombies, they finally put their plan in action. They walk out there and they all just start stumbling through the crowd of zombies. And clearly this is a nerve-wracking scene because there's tons of zombies around and they're just like stumbling through, hoping to blend in. And when they get to the Winchester, they find it's locked. And they start causing a commotion because the door is locked and David's like yelling to open the door and let them in and everything. He's like, let's just break a window. And Shaun's like, no, there's an entrance around back. But he doesn't really get to say that though. They keep cutting him off. And then Ed's phone rings.
Oh my god, best part.
It's like this loud, obnoxious ringtone. Like it's so funny nowadays because everyone has their phone on silent nowadays. I don't think anyone uses a ringtone anymore.
Unless you're over the age of 45.
Like, exactly, unless you're over the age of 45. But back in like 2004, ringtones were the shit.
Well, that was the thing. It was like, I'm going to get on Mixer, and I'm having a phone. I'm
gonna get on Mixer.
I'm having a ringtone sent to me. Unless you're privileged enough to like own an iPhone at some point. I had an old school
Well, not in
rumor.
04. No one had iPhones in 04.
Right, but
Yeah.
like until iPhones rolled out, you had like, I'm going to get on Easy Edge, and I'm going to download a ringtone, or I'm going to get it for free on Mixer.
You go on Mixer, or what I did, you take your phone and you go on the radio.
Oh, you're trash.
I was
You're
very much
trash.
And you're listening to the radio and you hold it up and you record the song.
No, you see, you do that for your like voicemail.
And if you miss the part you wanted, you gotta wait for the chorus to come back around. You gotta do it again. So
Heaven forbid you had the CD at home.
I never had the CD because every song I ever wanted was. Although I will say, I had a Nokia track phone as my first ever like.
It still works
phone.
to this day.
It
Still
does.
working.
And you know what the ringtone for that was?
Please enlighten us.
It was the Austin Powers theme song.
Yeah, there it is. I feel like everybody went through that phase
Yep.
where it's like Austin Powers is
Austin
like
Powers
the
is the
bee's
best.
knees.
Yeah. So it was the Austin Powers theme song.
Anyway, yeah, his phone goes off and he just falls into his classic role of I'm Ed, I don't care about anything. And his homie's like, dude, how you doing? Are you all right? He's like, yeah, man, I can't really like talk right now, but everything's going pretty good. Like,
Well,
how
it's the
are
same
you?
guy from earlier asking him if he's got more weed now.
Right.
Which is funny because obviously the world has like ended. So he's like, hey, did you get more weed? He's like,
Well, I mean, what are you gonna do when the world ends? Apparently,
I guess
smoke more weed every day.
smoke weed every day. So while Shaun and Ed are arguing, because this turns into a big fight between the two of them, where Shaun's just like, you fuck everything up and everything. He's had enough with Ed at this point. David decides, you know what, screw this. They're all looking at us. They're all coming towards us. He breaks the window.
Well, he takes a trash can.
And dumps it out and
This is
breaks the
important.
window,
He
yeah.
dumps it out and he throws it. And earlier we kind of missed over it, but Shaun had bought flowers to give to his mom, so he had it like messaged like, "Oh, to love you, mom," blah blah
To
blah.
a wonderful mom. Yeah.
But then he broke up with Liz, so he went to give the flowers to Liz. Well, she broke up with him, and she read that note knowing that. So he went and he threw those flowers in that trash can. Mm-hmm. So at this point, he dumps out the trash can and he breaks the window, and then Shaun's mom finds those flowers. She's like, I think these were meant for me.
meant for me, yeah. So she eventually does get her flowers that Shaun purchased for her. But anyway, they can't go into the Winchester because the zombies just follow them in, so Shaun creates a distraction.
And
starts
he doesn't
yelling.
get bit somehow. He literally goes through like a horde of them and doesn't even get
He, like, pushes through 'em
Doesn't
and
even
just,
get licked.
Yeah, doesn't even get lit.
Doesn't even make sense.
Well, he causes a distraction. He starts yelling for them, and all the zombies start following him as he runs down the street, swearing to Liz and promising he'll be back. So the others go inside the Winchester. They realize the power's off. They can't turn the lights on, and they basically just have to wait for Shaun to come back at this point. They're not really sure what to do. David tries taking charge, but
Oh, he does a fantastic job.
minimal effect. People really aren't listening to him.
Well, he's basically like, Liz, Shaun's trash. Why are you listening to him? He's not coming back. He doesn't love you, and he's not. Why would you just believe his promise?
Yeah. So they realize, there's not any food in the Winchester. There's nothing. How are we going to stay here
They
forever?
got snacks,
They got snacks. They got like what?
and they got all kinds of booze.
They have a lot of alcohol. Yeah. And as we're going through the list of snacks, like David's like throwing them around because he's like pissed off and everything. Shaun catches one of them and he's just like, "Oh, okay, thanks. I needed something here." And everyone's like, "Shaun, you came back." And he's like, "I tried to tell you there was a back door before you broke the window, but you weren't listening."
Classic David.
So he reveals, he slipped away from the zombies. He came back around. He tells Liz, he was like, I promise I'd come back for you. And then he's able to get the power back on by switching on the fuse, or at least for the TV, because they're trying to see, what's going on outside the news and everything. While he's back there flipping on the fuses, I love this too because he's like messing around with the fuses. He turns on a light for the back, and there's just a bunch of zombies.
Oh, right at the door. Like, it's like a outdoor floodlight, and you just see through this thin pane glass just a ton of them. And he's like, oh, and he turns it off real
He
quick.
turns the light off real quick and shuts the blind for it, and just like walks back out and shuts the door. He walks to Liz. He's just like, "We have a problem." And he's like, "The zombies were able to follow me here.
I didn't, in fact, give him the slip.
I didn't give them the slip, yeah. So they were able to follow me here. And obviously that creates more chaos in the group and everything because the news channels are all turned off. No one is able to get any information out there. More chaos goes on in the group, and we eventually find out that Barbara has been bitten. I don't think the zombies have broken in at this point yet, have they?
No, they're still everybody's alluded to the chaos, and they're like, Shaun, we have a problem. He's like, I know we do. So he's like, hey, I need you to get my mom, Liz, take my mom and get her upstairs or get her away. And then in doing that, well, I feel like we skipped one really important scene where they take the gun off the wall.
We haven't got there yet.
Have we not? Okay.
Well,
I thought they took the gun off the wall
yeah,
prior
that's what
to this.
Okay, yeah, no, the zombies have started breaking through the window because that's when they hit the gun down off the wall.
Right, okay.
And then they take Barbara back. He's like, get my mom out of here.
Yeah, so he's like, get Barbara back, and then in which case Liz discovers that she's been bitten on the wrist. Mm-hmm. And in doing so, she takes off her necklace because she knows she's not long for this world. And she's like, take this. And she's like, I'm broken. And she stops. She's like, wait a minute. I mean, she's about to die. Like, why would I do that?
Yeah, and so she kind of like blesses Liz and Shaun's relationship. But you're right. Before that, the zombies start breaking in through the windows, and that's when Ed goes and grabs the Winchester down from the top of the bar. And Shaun's like, Ed, I told you that gun doesn't work. But he like gives it to Shaun, and he accidentally pulls the trigger, and it goes off, and that's when they realize
I told you.
And Ed's like, yeah, I told you it worked.
And dogs can't look up.
And dogs can look up.
They can.
But they realize the gun works, and it's funny that this is a British movie because there's a whole big scene here where they're like, does anyone know how to work a gun? Anyone know how to use it? Because if this was an American movie, it wouldn't even be a question.
Oh, I thought about that. Everybody already have a gun on them, right?
Exactly. You already have a weapon on it, yeah. And so I think that's kind of why it's so important this is set in Britain, because there's not that stigma of we know how to use these guns, and not everyone has a weapon.
Well, also, too, yeah, I like the fact that they have to use these random objects as weapons to make it. So would they be way less prepared for a zombie apocalypse? Or, would we be worse off because we did have all these guns and probably just kill people that weren't even zombies?
Just start killing everyone that didn't
right.
actually, yeah.
So it is an interesting dynamic.
That is an interesting point to bring up, yeah. I don't know. I feel like, honestly, you're right. I think we do have more firepower, but I think we would fuck ourselves over more.
Well, yeah, we would absolutely kill ourselves. Like, you're not coming near my guns.
Don't touch my weapon. So, like I said, eventually they find out Barbara's been bitten, and David is immediately just like, we need to kill her. Because if we don't...
well, she passes away.
She does
so the
die,
second she dies, Shaun says his goodbyes, and she dies. Immediately, David's like, "We need to kill her," and that sparks this whole, "No, you just hate me and you want to kill my mom."
Because you're in love with my girlfriend.
Well, Shaun's acting really completely irrational because earlier he wanted to kill Phil being bit, and he wasn't even dead yet.
I'm sorry.
That was it. That was the whole sentence. Okay. Yeah, I mean, what more can we add to that?
Oh, we also, too, completely missed the best bromance scene of the movie.
Go on.
It's the part whenever, when they first get to the bar and Shaun comes back, David is, like, talking about all this bullshit's going on in the bar, and he's just like, you just want to have a beer with your boyfriend or whatever, and Shaun's like, he's not my boyfriend, and Ed comes around and he gives him a beer, and he's just like, here you go, and Shaun's like, thanks, babe. I just wanted to mention that because I have that in my notes. But yeah, Barbara dies. David wants to kill her. Shaun's freaking out because obviously he doesn't want to shoot his mom, who just passed away. But there's this moment where him and Liz are talking, and as they're talking, she rises up in the background, and Shaun reluctantly has to take the gun, and he has to shoot his mom because she does like kind of lash out for a second, and as she lashes out, Shaun shoots her. It ends up killing her. And as this is happening, from the back, we have the bartender come out, who is now zombified.
Right.
And the jukebox starts playing.
Oh, yeah, it alludes to an earlier scene when Shaun had first gotten broken up with, and then a random song just played.
Like, I think it's Chicago?
Well, it's just like a random depressing song.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, the thing's on random. And then all of a sudden...
Like, who put this on? He's like, it's on random.
So then it pops up and it has the joke where Queen starts playing and Shaun goes, kill the Queen. And they're like, wait, what? And they're like, no. The
jukebox.
The song by Queen.
Yeah, because Don't Stop Me Now starts playing. And here, if you guys have seen any of Edgar Wright's work other than this movie, this very much relates to Baby Driver, because that movie was filmed like on beat to every song in the film, and this scene is done very much on beat to everything. Like the way they're beaten at is it John? Is that his name? The bartender?
I can't remember, but it's synced very well. Like they did a great job of choreographing the fight scene where they're beating up on a 70-year-old.
Apparently they all wore like headphones to listen to the music to make sure they were on the beat when they were doing it. And even like David in the back, he's like flipping on the lights, trying to get the lights back on. That's all on beat too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a very rhythmic section of the movie. It's fantastic. I love everything about this section of the film. But eventually, they do take the bartender down, and David's just like, you know what, he's had enough. He's getting out of here. He can't deal it anymore.
Well, also, too, but right before he went to kill Shaun's mom, he pulled the trigger
on Shaun.
And he was going to shoot Shaun, but it hadn't been loaded, showing they don't really know a whole lot about firearms, loading it, reloading it.
Exactly.
So what do you do from that point? It's like, I was gonna kill one of the main members of our crew. I'm leaving. I'm mad.
Yeah, I'm done. Yeah, I'm mad. I'm out of here. I went to go kill someone and it didn't work, so now I gotta just leave. And so he goes to leave, and as he does, Di like stops him. She's like, "No, wait, don't go," or anything. He's like, "No, I have to go. I'm out of here." And as he says that, the zombies break through the window, grab a hold of him, pull him through the window, and just start ripping him apart.
Oh yeah, for definitely one of the coolest kills in the
one of the
entire
best
film.
kills
Yeah,
in the movie,
it's like from his innards and everything start coming out, and his leg and his arm and everything kind of falls apart.
Yeah, and like Shaun and Liz have a hold of his legs, and they eventually just pull his legs off. He just like rips in half. And again, like I said, I don't want to take too much from the Dead Meat episode of this movie, but I do want to point out here something that he mentioned. The zombies that actually end up tearing David apart are special effects crew, because they had this torso on the actor Dylan Moran, and they wanted to make sure it came apart correctly. So I think that's an interesting little bit of information that the zombies who did that were the special effects team who made the torso.
So I do want to go back for 1 second to when they first got the gun. So they start like loading it and shooting and everything, and he's like, "All right, give me direction. Tell me guys one point where to shoot, like how to shoot, and whatever." And Ed seems to be the only one that really knows anything about guns. So earlier in the movie, Ed's playing Time Splitters 3, I do believe, which is a very fond video game. Like I have very fond memories of that video game as a child. So like I love that video game. And at one point, Shaun goes, top left, like to aim out on that game, like, hey, there's a guy out there, you need to get him. So in the scene where he gets the rifle, at one point Ed goes top left, and it's like, it's another case of foreshadowing or just a joke or whatever you want to call it in this movie.
Just like repeating the same thing, because even too, he shoots a zombie in the head, and Ed's like, nice shot, just like how Shaun did earlier with the game. Well, also
too, another like ode to that, it kind of reminded me of, I don't know if it's related or not, but like House of the Dead, where it's just like, you get a shot,
nice
or whatever,
shot.
It's like, nice shot.
Yeah.
Or like headshot, and it's, I just thought it was funny, like a nice little ode to all those things.
For sure, yeah. I definitely think it does a great job of bringing...
Also, where's the Time Splitters remake? Any day that could happen would be awesome.
I would love a Time Splitters remake. That's completely off topic.
It is on topic. It was in the thing. He played. It's in the game. It's in the movie twice.
EA Sports. It's in the movie.
Stop.
So... Anyway, going back to...
so David gets ripped apart and everything. Everyone starts acting very irrational.
Yeah, Diane runs out.
Oh, she's like, my lover just died. David. Well, he's already dead, but she runs out with his severed limb, and she's like, I'm going to kill all these zombies with the limb.
Yeah, her fate's left ambiguous, like, where we assume she would die, but apparently in the DVD extras, she does not die.
Yeah, it's not elaborated. Well, it's not elaborated on in just the original movie, though.
Yeah, in the original movie, though, we don't know what happens to her.
She disappears.
She just disappears into a crowd of zombies, yeah. And so now it's just Shaun, Ed, and Liz.
So one thing I will take from this, while everyone's acting irrational and everything's going to hell in a handbasket, so Shaun and Ed completely suck in everyday normal life, right? However, in this random emergency, they're just super, like, really prepared. They know how to handle it, and it just goes to show it's like another, I've completely changed. I'm a different person now. I can handle emergency situations. Yeah. So I thought that was just kind of another reference to Shaun changing.
There's even a moment here in a minute I'm going to say where Ed basically says, I don't want to hold you back anymore. Like,
Yeah.
And so it's kind of just like goes to show this character development that's come through on both of them the entire movie, even though it's like, I feel like Ed, you don't see a whole lot of it till the very end, but Shaun, you definitely see like just continues up and up and up the entire film. But regardless, the zombies eventually come in, and now Shaun, Liz, and Ed are all just surrounded by zombies. Ed gets bitten by Pete, because Pete breaks through the window.
Right.
He comes in, he bites Ed, and like Shaun calls for him. He's like, "Hey, Pete!" And Pete looks up, and Shaun shoots him and just shoots him right through the eye.
Yeah.
And kills Pete. But regardless, Ed has been bitten. So Shaun and Liz hunker down behind the bar, and Ed somehow manages to get away from the zombies, and he jumps over the bar, and he's like completely bloodied and just like, falling apart basically at this point. And they're able to light the bar on fire because Ed's been talking the whole time about making Molotov cocktails, but like Shaun pours a bottle of, like, I don't know if it's like whiskey or what it is he pours out, but he lights the bar on fire. And they realize they don't have much time left. But as they're sitting there kind of figuring out what to do, they realize the box of shells that they had for the gun were left on the bar, and Shaun tries to grab them, but obviously they're on fire. He can't get a hold of them, so he ducks back down. And as he ducks back down, the shells start going off, and it like kills several zombies.
Yeah.
But it's funny because I love the part where there's like, we don't know what to do. The place is on fire now. We can't figure anything out. And then the zombies come around, just open the door up to the bar, like behind the bar. So Shaun's just like, "Oh, come on!" And that's when the bullets start going off, and it just kills one of the zombies who's coming through the bar.
It gets convenient, like ricochets and kills off of it. Yeah.
Yeah, very much convenient. But then they realize that there is a hatch in the floor where all the kegs are, and so they're able to make it down that hatch and kind of save themselves for a minute now. But the place is being overrun by zombies, so they really have no way out. Excuse me. They try to open a door that leads to the street, but they can't get it open. And so this is very much a sad and somber moment of the movie where they're all just kind of sitting down there and they're just like, well, this is it for us. Shaun and Liz kind of like make a comedic joke about suicide. They're trying to like figure out, we got two bullets left. Should there be like, I kill you and then you kill yourself, or like
She's like, I can't do it. I'm not gonna be able to.
I can't do it. I'll fuck it up. Yeah. I can't kill myself. So it's just this like they're joking about it, but it's a very like emotional time of it, and it's funny because at first they're like, we have two bullets left, but there's three of us, and Ed's like, I don't mind being eaten. It's okay. And then they're talking about like all this stuff being all sad and like sappy and everything, and Ed's like, actually, I changed my mind. Just shoot me. But Liz pulls out a pack of cigarettes that Shaun had left in her apartment, because like after the whole "I thought you quit smoking" thing, he threw them in the basket, like the waste bin. She pulls those out and she's like, well, I guess we'll have a smoke then before we die. And as he goes to light up his lighter, they realize there's a switch behind them that will lift the kegs in and out of the keg room. So that is their way out. They just need to flip the switch and get out of there. And so they try to get Ed on board. He's just like, no, leave me here. I don't want to hold you back.
Yeah,
That's
this
the part
comes
where
to his character development, where he's like, no, I've been holding you back this whole time. Just leave. Just go with Liz. And that's what Liz has wanted this whole time, is just
to have her to Shaun.
Intimate with Shaun instead of Shaun and Ed, like a package deal.
Right. So, they eventually come to terms with leaving Ed there. He takes the Winchester, and he's holding it as Liz and Shaun rise up out of there. And as they're leaving, Liz is saying, goodbye, Ed, I love you. And Shaun's like, I love you, man. And that's when another moment of this where Ed's just like, gay.
Well, also, too, Ed, like, earlier in the film, Ed had farted, and he's like, I'm sorry. And he's like, sorry for what? And he's like, and then he smells it, and he's like, I'll stop doing it when you stop laughing at it. And then they do it again, as Ed's about to die. So it's like a sad, like a bittersweet, like, oh, I love that joke, and you're never going to get it again.
You're never going to get it again, yeah. It's a very sad comedic moment there at the end. But as Liz and Shaun rise up out of the roof onto the street, there's just a bunch of zombies around them. And basically they kind of prepare for the worst when a military van sweeps in and just guns all the zombies
Oh
down.
yeah, just perfect ending. Just
Just-
all of a sudden,
yep.
wait a minute, we toughed it out. We lost everyone except just Shaun and Liz remain, and now the military showed up. And then out of nowhere, Shaun's old friend shows up, still with a golf club, I do believe. I was like,
Yeah,
where, she
Yvonne
couldn't
shows
find a
back up.
gun?
Yeah, Yvonne shows back up, and she's just like, "Oh, you're still alive. Good to see that. You know, how you been?" They're just like surviving.
Yeah, right. I mean,
So,
Water
you know,
What else
great
were we
catch
doing?
up here. Yeah.
yeah.
But the military basically kills all the zombies in the area. They rescue Shaun and Liz, take them back, and then we cut 6 months later. And I love how it's just like 6 months later, they're calling it Z-Day for, you know, the day the zombies came about. And they've got like television shows centered around all these zombies.
Yeah, okay, so that brings me back to, I think it's hilarious how they're trying to be realistic about it, because I feel like we 100%,
100% would
would
do this.
monopolize on the fact that, we have zombies, now they can be mindless workers.
Yep.
We can turn them into, it's easy money, we don't even have to pay them,
don't have to
right?
pay 'em, yeah.
Like, now they're TV shows, now they're on the internet, now it's like a meme, it's like a whole thing, zombie culture is a thing now.
There
and
was
then
like
one girl...
Zombade. It was like trying to protect
my-
the zombies. It was like the pacifists protecting the zombies.
And then there's a one girl who's like, yeah, my husband's a zombie now, but I still love him. I still have this ring on my finger till death.
It's
do
like
us
the
part.
Maury Jerry Springer, like the British
It's
Jerry Springer. It's
ridiculous.
like,
Absolutely
I married a
ridiculous.
monster.
And I think it's 100% accurate of how today would go.
Yeah, and then there's like the zombie wipeout too. Like the zombies tied to a tether rope, and they're trying to get
It's
the
a
meat.
game show, but
A game
instead
show
of being
them.
like horse racing, it's basically like zombie like racing.
It's 100%
essentially.
true. I agree. I think that's 100% how we would do
Well,
it.
yeah,
Like,
if we can
would-
make money off of it, why not? 100%.
We would have, like, you know-
and then you would have people protesting, zombie lives matter.
Zombie
right?
lives matter, yeah. So I think like there would definitely be a time where the movie would make sense. We would be panicking and everything, but I think you're right. After so long, we would start
Right.
monopolizing off.
Maybe
of it.
not 6 months, maybe 6 months. I don't know. It is funny. It's accurate.
It's very accurate. It's also honestly probably one of the most honest portrayals of an after zombie apocalypse movie I've ever seen.
Yeah. So like at the end there, Shaun is flipping through the channels, and that's how he sees all this random fact. I don't know. I don't know if it's true or not. I'm pretty sure it is. But Noel Fielding, I think's his name, or the dude that plays Old Greg, is like a
Old
random
Greg.
news anchor on the TV. It's only for like a split second or whatever. I'm pretty sure it's him though, and I
have to
couldn't-
go back and look again and
I looked
see.
on a couple different places trying to find it, and I couldn't get any conclusive evidence. But it looks just like him if it's not, and I know
Right.
he has a relationship. I'm pretty sure with like Edgar Wright and
Well,
Simon Pegg.
he's another big like British.
Well, I know you talked
persona.
about what's the Drive movie? The
Baby Driver?
Baby Driver, and he had a huge impact on like that movie
Oh,
itself.
did he? Okay. I didn't know that.
Well, apparently there was like a music video that he made, or like he had like helped make or star in or something, and then that actually led to the movie Baby Driver. Like the movie Baby Driver is based off of a music video. But I was like, that's Old Greg.
That's Old Greg.
Maybe I'm completely
I'm Old
wrong.
Greg.
I'm pretty sure it is. I could be 100% wrong on this because I couldn't confirm it online anywhere. Like I looked it up, and I don't know.
You just couldn't find anything.
No, but it looks like him, and it would make sense. There's a lot that makes sense there.
Right. So, anyway, life has gone back to normal for the most part. Shaun and Liz are living together now. They're back
Well,
in his old...
Liz got her wish basically.
Yeah, she got her wish, yeah.
She's like, I just wanted just me and Shaun living in by ourselves and everything great, and Ed out of the picture.
Mm-hmm. Well, he kind of is.
But
he's not-
But the
he's
thing
not
is, though,
fully.
Shaun also gets
to keep his
he gets to have
life,
his cake and eat it too, because he goes out to the shed, which is alluded to earlier from Pete. You should live in a shed if you ain't an animal, because now
Yeah.
he is technically an animal, right, as a zombie.
Yeah.
And he's out playing time splitters.
Because he goes out, because like Shaun and Liz are talking, and she's like, what's the plan? They plan their dinner or whatever they're going to do. And Shaun's like, I'm going to pop out to the garden for a bit. And she's like, okay. And he goes out there, gets in the shed, he pulls out a controller, and it's like, player 2's into the game, and it pans out, and it shows a zombified Ed chained to the wall playing video games. He's like, tries to bite Shaun. He's like, Ed, stop. And it's like, ooh. It just
What
goes
is funny
back.
too, I think there's a play on that, like video games go rot your brain and everything. So like a zombie playing video games, it's like we get it. Yeah.
Exactly. So the movie ends with Shaun and zombified Ed playing video games, and they live happily ever after.
Yeah, so it wraps it up nice, and everything worked out. Just a lot of people just had to die for
a lot of people
Shaun's
had
life.
to die for Shaun to get his shit together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically. So that brings us to the end of the film, but Alex, we are not done yet, because I got to ask you,
Every time.
Do you think this film has an overall theme? If you had to put if you had to say what the overall message of this film is, what do you think it is?
Well, I think the overall theme is that we're all zombies, regardless of we're eating human flesh or eating brains or whatever, the stereotype of zombies are. We're doing our mundane tasks of let's get up, let's go to work, let's go to the Winchester, have a pint, wait for this whole thing to blow over, and then we go to work the next day. And it's just, we live our lives on repeat. I feel like it's kind of the overall message of everything. And also, too, don't be afraid to stray out and do something different, especially if it's for someone special, Shaun and Liz.
Right.
Because Shaun's completely content living in his box, in his world. And I feel like, myself included, it's easy.
A lot of us are,
I'm a creature of habit. So it's so easy just to, I'm going to go to work, I'm going to have a beer after work, I'm going to play video games. And, I get that, 100%. Yeah. So how do you break that cycle? Do I need to wait for a world-ending tragedy to happen? And I think the film's trying to say, hey, maybe don't wait for a zombie apocalypse to happen.
Yeah.
So that someone special in your life or, whatever it is in your life that you're missing, go ahead and reach for it now. Don't wait for the zombie apocalypse.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree completely. I don't think there's really much of a political theme or message behind this one like there would be for Day of the Dead or Night of the Living Dead or things like that.
Right.
I think this movie mostly, like what you're saying, I think this movie truly is just humanity, you easily get stuck in ruts. You easily humanity as a whole are mindless zombies. We're just not eating each other. Well, most of us aren't.
Hold up.
So it's just the whole idea of you're absolutely right. I agree 100%. Go out, if you find yourself stuck somewhere, change it. Don't wait for a zombie apocalypse to make that change for you. Try to go out and make it yourself.
My thing is though, so obviously Shaun did it for Liz, but is there anything wrong with living your routine life if you're happy with it? So the whole variable here is Liz. Liz is not happy with it. Liz is the one that wants to change everything. But Shaun's 100% going to the Winchester until he dies. He probably will die at the Winchester.
You're not
statistically.
Wrong. Statistically speaking, he would die at the Winchester.
So I guess, I don't know, that kind of throws things up in the air for, you should live your life how you want, but also, too, you're not the only person in your life. So do you live your life for yourself, or do you live your life to also... For others, yeah. And I think you need to have a healthy balance between those two things.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I think he should go to the Winchester, maybe instead of every day, maybe just...
And they still do go to the Winchester. They even joke about going there and everything, too.
Well, I mean, it did kind of save their lives, so I feel like that'd be a pretty cool spot to go back to.
Even though you killed your mom
This bar saved my life. Well, he killed a lot of people.
He did kill a lot of people there. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a whole deep analysis of this film. I don't think this film's super deep.
Well, that's the good thing about this film, too. If you want to have a couple of drinks and chill with your buddies, have some snacks, and it's an easy film to watch. There are some analytical things and references and foreshadowing, and you can set and break this movie down.
There's a shit ton of references, yeah.
Well, yeah, there's a ton. But overall, you're not going to have a bad day if you're like, oh, man, I don't need some super intellectual... I come home from my job so I can watch this film so I can go to work tomorrow.
Yeah, this film is definitely no Mandy or Saint Maud or anything to where it's I have to analyze every frame of this movie.
Right.
This is very much just hey, let's drink, let's have a pint and wait for all this to blow over and watch Shaun of the Dead.
Honestly, sometimes that's the cure for a lot of things.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Having a pint.
Having a pint and just, watching a mindless film.
So my question is...
Zombies, mindless.
Speaking of zombies, so I know I kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier. What do you think is a realistic approach to zombies? I don't know. Maybe we had a similar input on that, but me, let's say there was this let's say there was this radiation thing.
Okay.
And people started becoming zombies, and it's implied that it's only spread bite per bite, even though people were coughing and whatever. I think that was just meant to be an exaggeration to say, hey, these guys are sick.
They're sick, yeah.
Maybe they had already been bitten. We don't know that information. Do you think they would get superhuman abilities? Do you think they could run faster? Also, too, they're dead. So the scene where they fake walking through, do you think they could smell the fresh
That's
flesh
been my big issue with that
versus
scene
smelling dead flesh? Because also they've become kind of dumb, right? They're
it's very much just primal senses.
They went back to carnal instinct.
Yeah.
So would that heighten your sense of smell and taste and vision because now your cerebellum cortex has just...
See, that... That's been my issue with the faking like their zombie
It's funny
scene.
for the sake of the
context
film.
of the film,
It's
yeah.
funny. Like that's like, oh, why did I think to do that? But realistically, I would think it'd be
But
like
no,
a
I
dog
don't think it would work.
or any other animal that had that primal instinct. Like, that's food.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
I don't
eat
think
that.
it would actually work because you're right. I think it shows in the movie they're based a lot on sound, but I also too think they're based a lot on scent because they're able to like smell and realize people are in there and everything. I don't think their vision is that great. Maybe
Probably
I don't know.
not. I would agree with that.
But I think they would definitely be able to smell the blood coursing because like when you die, there's no more blood going through your body or anything.
So-
or at least it do smell
But okay,
dead.
another huge thing with zombies that I've always had an issue with. So scientifically, you have to have some sort of like your blood needs a pump or to flow or to get your joints moving or whatever. If you're dead and your blood has stopped and you're dead, then how are you able to move? Like even if you could reanimate based off of nerves, it would only be for a set amount of time.
Right.
So how long is a zombie's lifespan? You would think only a couple days at most.
And see, I hate The Walking Dead. I'm going to put that out there right now. I do not like The Walking Dead.
I like The Walking Dead. But
I watched the first season. It was fine. I watched the second season. I hated it.
That's fair.
But The Walking Dead did a great job with explaining this, I think. I don't remember exactly how they explained it, but it's basically like that. They begin to deteriorate. That's why, like, when you watch The Walking Dead, and I saw this online, I didn't actually see this in person. From season 1 to whatever season they're on now, the zombies get more and more grotesque because they're deteriorating. They're falling apart because
Right,
they're not stable enough to keep themselves together.
And that makes sense.
Right, so eventually it would just fade out. If no one else got bit and no new zombies were created, the ones who were created years ago would just eventually fall apart and die.
My thing is, I feel like zombieism was real. I feel like it'd be,
Zombieism.
I mean, whatever you want to call it, contracting the zombie virus. I feel like if it was real, it'd be more like rabies, to where
Yeah, I think
all
so.
of a sudden, like, your brain kind of shuts down except all the carnal instincts. So it's like, oh, wow, I'm really good at smelling. I'm really good at hearing, maybe even seeing. You're going to go back to reverting to eating. But still, though, our diets have been so refined. Eating raw meat for us now is almost detrimental to our health.
Right, it would.
So
yeah.
how does the disease change your DNA to where it's like, I can now eat raw meat and it's not going to make me sick? Because obviously, what's the
like
point
a
of...
de-evolution kind of thing?
Yeah, so what's even the point of them eating raw meat, and why is it exclusive to eating cannibalism?
Yeah.
Because typically, I feel like animals don't eat their own kind unless it's out of an act of, like, self-defense almost. Like, how often do you hear
Or
about a
dire
snake
need.
eating a snake, or, a cheetah eating a cheetah? Because, like,
Well,
lions...
snakes do eat snakes.
Right, but, like... Well, I guess that's a bad example then. I guess
say, 'cause, like-
more so... let's go to more, like, other mammals, like... Because, zombies would be mammals, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, how often's a lion eat another lion unless it's just to kill them? Because they're hunting gazelle and zebra and other diverse...
Or if they find a dead body or something,
I feel like lions eating humans, though, isn't, like, a traditional, like, part of their diet. I feel
I
like
meant
that's
like a lion finds a dead lion and eats it.
Like, do they do that? Like, would they do that? Or is that, like, an act of desperation?
I feel like it's mostly an act of desperation. I don't know enough about the animal kingdom to
Well, that's what I'm
know.
saying. That's what's interesting about the whole zombie thing is, okay, why do they immediately turn on humans? Yeah, maybe to spread the disease, because the virus we can assume is like a parasite
Right.
that takes over your mind. Is like, hey, I need to reproduce as fastly as possible, because that's what bacteria, like all that stuff does. Like, I need to live. That's our purpose on Earth, right?
I need to live.
Well, we need to reproduce so we can live on, right, in a different
Right.
generation. So that makes sense as far as that. But I guess I never really understood how that would work, like as a long-term side effect. How long could those zombies live? And does their blood stop flowing? And also, too, you have to cut off their head or destroy their brain. What about, like, their heart? Because how are their, nerves and everything functioning without a heart?
Well,
Obviously, this is a completely, like, fake movie, but I'm just talking about there's a lot of zombie culture.
you hit me with the hard questions tonight. I was
Well,
not prepared for this.
Well, that's what makes it good. But I'm just
I know.
saying. Well, I mean, you'd even take them as rhetorical questions, just even to the audience, is to think about why is zombieism not practical, and how would it be a practical thing? Look at the dreaded virus of 2020, 2021.
The panini that we're in, yeah.
So, how would it spread, and how would people react to it?
I think I've never seen the movie, so I can't talk too much about it. And I honestly don't even remember what it's called. It was another movie that Dead Meat covered. It's got Samara Weaving in it. I think it's Samara Weaving. where they're like in an office and there's this virus that makes people like rage.
Oh, actually, that was a good movie. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
I think that's how it would be more than. I don't think we would have dead rising from the ground. I think if a zombie apocalypse happened, it would be more like whatever virus is affecting people just made them completely irrational and angry.
I agree.
And I don't think it would necessarily be like we're going to eat these people. It's just like we're going to be just fucking murdering everybody.
Well, that's the thing. I think it would just take your brain and just kind of
Flip a switch.
Take all the logic, and you would act on pure
Instinct.
impulse, and emotion. Like, this guy makes me mad. I'm going to kill him.
Yep.
This guy makes me sad. I'm going to kill myself. You know? I don't know.
So that's in my head. If there was ever a true zombie apocalypse, I think that's kind of more likely to happen than the dead are raising from the graves, and they're like,
Well, that's the only thing I've always had an issue with is like, how is the dead? Yeah, okay, like reanimation of dead. I get that concept. Obviously, I think that's where zombies came from. Was like there was a flu powder that put you in like a deep coma, and then people would come up out of the grave. Right. That's why we have 6-foot graves now because they can't come back up, and that's why the little bell thing. And but that, I mean, that's a different topic. But what I'm saying is, it never made sense if you were truthfully dead. Then how are you, organic matter? How is that?
Yeah.
How are you keeping on? So I would like, the movie you were talking about, I think that's a great perspective on it. But I'd like to see more movies about zombie be more of a virus or like a
legitimately biological film that would
yeah,
be
like a realistic
explain, yeah,
something realistic that, I mean, I know with Resident Evil it was kind of like, oh, it's evolved, it's changing your DNA and it's making you like this or that, and like I mean I get that to a certain point. But it would be interesting to see a movie that's like, hey, I'm going to take this and I'm going to make it like as realistic as possible.
Mm-hmm. Like as scientifically medical as possible.
Right, yeah. It would.
Yeah.
I just think that would be a cool idea for a movie. I'd watch it.
Yeah, I'd watch
It'd probably be trash, but I'd watch it.
It'd probably be trash. It's just one of those ones that just go straight to Netflix. It's just like, yeah.
Hey, some of the straight to Netflixes are fire, though.
Some of them are. Some of them are trash.
I mean, that's the risk you take.
So, I don't know. But yeah, so you're asking me the hard questions, and I don't have an answer for those.
I mean, it's just a personal opinion. I mean, obviously, this is all science fiction, right?
Thing. It's not you.
He don't know about Pangea.
This bitch don't know about Pangea. Oh my god. Okay, we're getting off topic. So, all right. So obviously, we don't have a super analytical answer for like what this movie means. I don't think it goes too in depth on that. But we do have some final girls to rank.
Oh boy, my favorite part.
We got 2 final girls. So we got Shaun and Liz. So if you guys don't know, here on the Final Girl Podcast, we like to rank our final girls based on how well they overcome their oppressor at the end of the film. So in this case, we have 2 because Shaun and Liz both lived. So Alex, on a scale of S to F, we'll go ahead and start with Liz first. Where would you rank Liz on that list?
So, going off of survivability and overall contributing to the group, I think there were some things where she's like, hey, especially there was a scene with her and David where she's like, hey, you need to get together. Before Shaun had come back at the Winchester. She's like, you need to get together. We have no idea what we're doing. Shaun does know what we're doing. So I'd say she definitely played a great support role. So I would give her like a solid B for effort. Because overall, I mean, she did handle herself well as far as not getting bit. She did survive. She killed off, I think, or at least warded off a couple zombies. Mm-hmm. So I would give her a solid B. And as far as Shaun, I mean, not to be like cliche, but S for Shaun, he did kind of carry the whole movie. He did come up with all the plans, 3 times, very cleverly executed through editing styles. But I mean, he survived. He completely changed. He said he was going to do what he did, and he ended up doing it at the end. So I'd give him solid S rank.
Okay. I'm in complete agreement with you. Agreeance. God, I can't speak tonight.
This is fine.
It's been it's the beer, man. No, I completely agree. I think Liz deserves a B. She's a great support character. She does, keep everyone calm when they're acting irrational. She takes control of things when they need to be taken control of. So I think overall she doesn't have a huge impact on like whether or not they survive, but she's able to keep the group together and be like, hey, get your shit together. We got to survive here. And yeah, I think this is the second S I've ever, maybe the third. I think I gave Ripley an S. This is like the third S I've ever given, I think, on the show, but I'm giving Shaun an S. I think Shaun plays his part perfectly. He distracts from the group. Like he takes the zombies away from them. He's able to do the tough things like, you know, kill his mother whenever she reanimates. He has a full 180 by the end of the film. He's a very much a slack in the beginning, but he comes together, gets his crap together, and changes completely for his girlfriend and for himself
in one
too.
day, nonetheless. You ever seen that turnaround, Tom?
Yeah.
Ladies, I'm talking to you, or you know, some men. Have you ever seen your man
turn
around in one day?
They've never had a zombie apocalypse though to live through.
Oh, so that's a crutch now. Like,
Yeah.
if I didn't have that apocalypse,
If I had that apocalypse, you know, my man
if
would turn
only I had
around.
I hear. I'm gonna use that excuse next time.
There you go. Yeah,
Sure.
I'll turn around. There's a zombie apocalypse.
Next is zombie apocalypse. You got me.
But no, I don't see many faults in Shaun's character. I think he does a fantastic job of, you know, he does the same thing Liz does. He keeps people together. He, you know, there's the one moment in the bar where he loses his shit on David. That's like, I think that's the only part.
Well, David is being a very
he's being
David
very antagonist.
character.
Yeah, he's being very antagonistic against him.
I mean, he did threaten to shoot him. He pulled the trigger and everything. Luckily, it was empty. So.
Yeah, well, because he does that after Shaun punches him in the face. But
Well,
David also
deserved.
says he says something about like it's about time or something like that or whatever. So he turns around and punches him in the face. But yeah, I don't see hardly any flaws in his characterization or his character as a whole. And I think, truthfully, I love Shaun as a character. I love his character arc. He's able to save himself and his girlfriend at the end. And he's, like you said, he's able to have his cake and eat it too because he gets to keep the same like kid side of himself with Ed in the shed. Ed in the shed.
Stop.
You've heard on Elf on the Shelf.
We're gonna
Go get
stop.
ready for Ed on the shed. So, yeah, I'm gonna rank him in an S. Now I will say it's probably a lower S. He's definitely below like Ripley.
Well, also,
and-
too, I would say, like, level of difficulty, if I had to rate the zombies, I would say they're pretty much easy mode. Maybe, like, low medium. But
Yeah.
they were slow moving.
They were slow zombies.
They had no special abilities. They didn't have any, like, crazy features. They just were bare minimum carnal zombies.
Right. It's been forever since I've seen.
I mean, he
28
literally
Days Later.
waited through a whole thing of zombies. Well, okay, back to the zombie argument. I feel like they could still run full human speed. Like a dog, like let's pretend a dog has rabies, right?
It can still run.
It can run. It might not be able to think logically, but it can run at full speed. It still has a stamina limit, and they were all slow.
Fast zombies are terrifying.
Well, I mean, let's just say, I don't know how fast a human can run. Let's say like what, 8 to 10 miles an hour is like the record. I mean,
Probably.
I
So,
can,
like-
I can run like 6 or
Let's say
7
on
at
average,
least.
like run 4 to 6 miles an hour. That probably is safe to say for on average.
Like
a
just an
human.
average human, right?
Yeah.
You're not well trained and not, but that's fair.
Yeah.
But none of them ran.
None of them
not a
ran,
single one
yeah.
of them. And apparently they were so dumb they were tricked by acting. I'm gonna act like it. They didn't have like necessarily zombie blood coated or.
Yeah, they weren't covered in zombie
Well,
blood.
that, I mean, that would make sense too if they're like how hunters will cover themselves in
make it
deer,
like
deer
a
urine
predator
or something.
situation,
right?
Where they
like,
cover themselves in mud and like.
yeah, that would make sense. They're disguising their scent and all that. So their lack of visual, I'm not disagreeing with. Like that's fair. Maybe because I don't know what the intelligence level of visual is, but spotting a pattern or something, I feel like you have to be smarter.
Exactly.
So I could forgive that one, but the smell and the taste and the sound, those are still going to be there and very prevalent.
Yeah. No, I agree. I don't know. We need to like let's say we need to run some tests on zombies. We don't have any zombies.
Oh, true.
That would be something though we would do if we had a zombie apocalypse
Oh,
after
absolutely.
monopolizing them and like
No, how can we make the perfect human after?
Exactly, that's
Or
what I'm
how can we
saying.
make the perfect zombie? Or how can we cure it? Yeah, it's no question.
it'd be
that's
some
a thing.
Overlord type shit right there. So, I don't know. There's all kinds of questions that we could ask about that, but I don't know. I'm giving Liz a B. I'm giving Shaun an S.
I think that's a fair rating.
I think it is, yeah.
I mean, low S is fine. Like an S minus is fine. I'm fine
S minus.
with that. Sure.
Because like I said, he's definitely below Ripley and Laurie Strode.
Well, he didn't have the difficulty. I don't think as the
Because a Xenomorph and Michael Myers.
well, Mike
compared to a
Myers is
zombie.
invulnerable, and then xenomorphs are just ungodly strong and fast and tactile.
terrifying.
So sure,
Yeah, I'd rather take on 100 zombies versus one Xenomorph.
yeah, in that instance, sure.
Yeah. So, all right, guys, that brings us to the end of our discussion of Shaun of the Dead. But Alex, before we go, we got one last thing to do.
Oh, geez, here we go.
We like to have some fun on this show. We like to play some games.
Uh-oh.
And for the past couple weeks now, I've been doing our health shot trivia quiz. But today, I'm going to bring back an old favorite.
No.
We're going to play Movie Quote Telephone.
I'm terrible at this game.
So what this is, for those who don't know, this is a game I stole from another podcast called Popcorn. I have a quote from the movie that I'm going to do my best impersonation of.
I'm going to screw it up.
And then you're going to do your best impersonation of my impersonation. And we just go back and forth till we have something completely crazy and wild. That it sounds nothing like the actual movie. So you ready for this?
I suppose as ready as I can be. I don't know. I didn't research this role, so.
Okay, well, it's a quote that I think you're going to be okay with. Because I was like, what quote can we do from this movie? And there was only one option. You've got red on you.
Yeah, but which one are you quoting, though? Because the mom
I'm doing Phillips.
So
Phillips in the store. Yeah.
You've got red on you.
Why is it getting Forrest Gumpy already?
I don't know. That's just
You've got red on you.
I don't know how to do like a British accent, like, you know.
I can't do a British accent.
Spot of tea. You've got red on you.
You've got red on you.
But I feel like he didn't sound like that.
No,
in
he
the
doesn't
film,
sound
though.
like that.
If
No.
it sounds more Forrest Gump. He was like, "You've got red on you."
You've got red on you.
I'm not sure when this is supposed.
Jenny, I love you.
No, we're gonna Lieutenant Dan. No,
Lieutenant Dan, you got new legs.
Lieutenant
All right,
Dan,
guys,
you've
that's
got
all we
red
got
on
for
you.
tonight.
I'm going home. Going to
All
bed.
right, Alex, it's been a minute. Tell people where they can find you on the internet.
You know, check me out on YouTube at Alex Bennett. Not C-Lex, but
C-Lex.
Alex Bennett. I've been called that before. Randomly.
Oh, have you?
Yeah. Check me out there. I try to upload content once every couple years, so check that out. Hey, I'm just being honest with
He's
you.
just being honest.
Just
Yeah.
being real with you.
All right. Well, thank you for being on tonight. I appreciate it.
Hey, you know, thanks for having me, big guy.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, thanks, Shaun. Thanks for being the Shaun to my Ed. You know,
You've got red on you.
you've got red on you. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. 13 Palm Trees Podcast Productions, they bring you this show along with other great podcasts such as Gurus of Gaming, D&D Kinda, and Video Game Mythos. Check them out wherever you get your podcasts. If you guys want to know more about this show, you can find us on Facebook.com/FinalGirlPodcast. Talk us in the Discord. The link is down below, so join the Discord. Hop on there. We're always interactive with you guys on there as well. If you want to support the show, you can do so on Patreon.com/FinalGirlPodcast, and also follow us on Instagram at FinalGirlPodcast. Also, another plug I have here for you. I've also made a TikTok for the podcast. So if you guys want to do TikTok stuff and follow us on TikTok, it is at the Final Girl Podcast on there as well. Thank you all so much for listening. I do appreciate it. Alex, once again, thank you for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Until next time, guys, take it easy.
Take it easy.
Look, movies like this end when the final girl kills the main bad guy and the credits roll.